Welcome back, Sports Card Culture Podcast number 16.
I'm excited for it.
We got a special guest who's been here every week, but now we have a mic in front of him. Evan McCracken, the editor-in-chief, the baseball prospect guru.
I like guru.
The whisperer of baseball up-and-comers. And thank you for turning your phone off.
The baseball whisperer.
The baseball whisperer.
Hey, so I've had my phone, not alerting me, not on buzz, not on sound for a year. And people would text me and I won't get back to them for days.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so now I finally turned it on.
I've actually been the recipient of those
right.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And so now I turned it on today and you're complaining about it. So, all right. So we are going to do a big baseball episode today.
Yeah.
But we'll do all the non-baseball stuff first. And then it'll be baseball. And we're going to start a new segment. We're reading a book. Yes. So instead of us talking about it as podcast, we're just going to talk about it on the podcast.
Yep.
Because there was a number of business-related things in there, and I thought, the whole point of this is to record our conversation. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have a conversation. We might as well record it. All right, first thing up, eBay standard envelope is live. We talked about that when it kind of got leaked out and then taken away. But it is low-price sports cards, under $20 and under.
Okay.
6x8 paperboard jacket is being touted as the best option.
I saw one today someone brought in that I think they must have received a package through because I thought, that's interesting.
It doesn't really look like an envelope. I mean, it looks better than an envelope.
It's got some dimension to it. It's thicker, but it's not like a bubble. It's not padded fully, but it's multiple layers of paper. Would you say that's
Well, it's paper board, so it's not cardboard, but it's heavier than paper stock.
Right.
For sure.
Is this something that you get shipped to you?
Well, you can buy it from the eBay supply store, and of course they're sold out. I clicked on the link, and I bet you there's going to be paperboard jackets that you can flip if you have them.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. It's going to be top loaders. 3 ounces is 91 cents. You can send at 1 ounce or 2 ounce for less. I didn't write down how much that was. You can put in 1 pack of cards, 15 raw cards. Please don't do that. 3 top loaders, 0.25 quarter-inch thickness. I think, I'd have to try it, but I think you can cardboard sandwich and still be
And if you're looking to know what the quarter-inch and inch thickness is that they require, there's actually a template that they'll give you at the post office that I can shop where you can actually make sure.
Put it in the slot.
Yep. So it's got and they have multiple levels, but there's one for the basic envelope, which this would be, and then there's one for the little bit larger thickness envelope that I think is just a 2 ounce.
Right.
So this one you can put 3 ounces of weight, but it still has to be that initial thickness.
For me to use it, I have to cardboard sandwich it because I actually don't. I send a lot of cards and soft sleeves in a cardboard sandwich. I don't top load them. So
I top load everything.
There's the price point at which.
Oh, I should say it. I don't top load everything. If there's a lot of 10 cards, I top load the front and the back.
I don't even do that.
Okay. You just cardboard.
Cardboard sandwich. Yep. Never had the cardboard. The
cardboard sandwich in a team bag. Is that what you do? Or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and a team bag, but the cardboard does all the work.
Yeah.
The bubble, I get on rants of this all the time. Bubble mailing doesn't do a damn thing to protect the card.
Right.
It just doesn't. What we're worried about is it's getting jammed in the corner. The bubble isn't stopping that jam, you know. But the cardboard being, and I know you cut your cardboard 2 size. Mm-hmm. I cut my cardboard double size, so it's twice as big.
My
as the
concern
card.
with going double size is it actually floating around in there and actually getting damaged by the cardboard. I want it held
because it's taped. I mean, it's tight.
Yeah, so you're putting a lot of pressure on it with the tape. Is that what you're saying? So you're almost bending it around it, so it's flat?
You had mentioned that before when I told you that. I don't think so.
Okay.
At least I've never had damage reported to me. I've also never had any complaints about it. So. Yeah. Even from now I'm very neat and orderly. And then the other aspect is you put it in a poly bag.
Yep.
The poly bag is protecting you from water.
Yep.
The cardboard is protecting you from damage.
And I had this thought the other day with how cold it is right now in Minnesota. I mean, we had a 30-degree below zero, like
Dude.
real temperature day. What do you think about being in the cold and any sort of condensation going hot to cold?
Chrome will fog up.
And that's my thought is, so like actually one of the benefits to the cardboard and the team bag and the bubble is actually keeping some of that cold out.
You think the bubble is doing anything though?
I think keeping the air out is going to keep it a lot. I think could keep it from having the condensation.
Right, and I also tape the seams too.
And do you
because
think
what I don't want is the plastic to get caught and rip.
Yeah.
I had one that happened once to a jersey, and ever since I taped it, I've never had another one rip.
Do you think a graded card could have condensation from cold?
Yes.
A chrome card in a
I've seen
slab?
It. Yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen it too.
Absolutely.
I have current cards that have that.
Yeah.
The inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think the solution is to that, or is there one?
It tends to rebound though, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know if I've seen it where it's maintained that way.
No, I've had it. I've had one for a few years that has that.
And it just had the weird fog to it.
I think people just kind of accept it though. It's not like
that, and we're getting slabs that have that fog in it from jump. It's not on the card, it's a slab. So
it's that.
I haven't had any complaints about that either.
The surface in between the.
Yeah.
I mean.
So
you
I
can
don't
get
know.
it reslabbed, but.
You'd have
worth
to crack it out, wipe it off.
Yeah.
Right.
I had a guy today drop off a reslab. For those of you guys that are aware of that, you can get any PSA holder. You could have the first generation PSA holder. You can send it in. They'll slab it in the new Lighthouse case with the barcode, with the same serial number, with the same grade, but it'll have all the updated benefits to the case.
All right, so we didn't plan this yet again, because why would we plan things? Actually, I was going to ask you that off air.
We're on air.
On air right now. So I have a card I need to send back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a crack in the case, and there's a piece of sand in there. I don't know, something in there.
Mm-hmm.
How do I do this? How long does it take?
So when you go in to start your grading submission, you can actually click on grading, crossover, reslab. That's one of the options.
Crossover.
No, crossover is when you send it.
Oh, you mean one of the selectors?
One of the options is instead of grading, you actually click reslab.
Okay.
And then you probably have about, now I'll say this much, when they make an error on the case, meaning I've had them where they put the wrong guy's name, and you send it back, they immediately reslab that. I've had them done in like a couple days.
Do you send a message with it, or?
Yeah, I mean, you print out your same form and everything, and it's reslab. Now, a card that's just an older card, they didn't make an error, you just want it updated, I think it's going to take more like a month. It costs $10 a card. Yeah, it comes back quicker. Because literally there's no grading involved. Now, if you have a cracked case and the crack is significant enough.
It's a heavy scratch.
Okay, so that's different. If you have a cracked case, which we've had numerous of these where they got damaged in transit, the cracked case, they actually examine the card again, that's going to take longer.
Yeah,
they want to make sure it's actually the same grade.
But I do have a piece of something on there.
Yep.
It looked like a granule of sand. Now, I called them this morning thinking I'd get the answer because I had a PSA order to send out.
How long did you stay on wait?
No.
They were closed yesterday.
No. I call them at 11:30, and it says, due to high call volume, there's a significant wait. Our queue is full for the day. Call back tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you want to contact us, send us an email. Right? Yeah. I hang up. I send them an email. I immediately get an email back that says, yeah, it's going to be 5 to 7 business days for us to respond to you by email. So let's just say the customer service side is down. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't blame PSA 100%. I blame all these guys who go call them every week and complain about how long it's taking. What are you doing?
Why?
What are you doing? Stop calling them.
Stop calling me and stop calling them. No.
Yeah. No, but like calling them is not going to make your PSA order coming back any faster. It's just not going to happen.
And actually,
but if I have a real question, I can't get through to them.
You can if you have a relationship with someone at PSA.
Oh, fair enough.
By email. So if you've been upcharged, have you been upcharged yet?
No.
If you have an upcharge, you get connected with someone directly by email, and so you can use that to your advantage. Now, if you start using that too much, I don't think that's going to help you. So if I've needed to get through to PSA, I actually called them on Monday, not realizing that President's Day, they hold to bankers hours, I guess. So they weren't open, so that was fun.
They're fancy.
But finally, our grades came through on the order I was curious about anyway. So yeah, it all got worked
Yeah,
out.
let's get into that. You sent off a bunch of Nike Jordans. Do you want to share your returns?
Yeah, Nike promo Jordans. We sent 14 of them. I got the first. So
14.
they went back-to-back days. 4 of them went first, and then 10 of them. The first 4 I got the grades this morning, which weren't bad. We got 1 8.5, 2 8s, and a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess the 6 was some sort of edge issue because as I think back, I'm like, that's like it's got to be a scratch. Or
Right.
It's not. None of them had like bad enough edges or corners.
And
to be
these
a
were
6.
sealed pack.
Yep, these came right out of the pack. So 8.5.
Are you saying there were no corner issues?
No, I mean there weren't.
I was going to say, if you look at them,
there weren't significant enough corner issues to make a 6 on any.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
so, it had to be something.
No,
else.
okay, we're not talking about the 8th. We're talking
I mean, it's
specifically about
to
the
have a
7th.
bad enough corner alone to be
Yeah.
a 6 is a
So you think it's
significant.
definitely
You
a
actually have to
surface.
have almost a crease.
Okay.
And then the second batch popped this afternoon, which was pretty fun. The first one was an 8. The second one was a 9. So I was like,
what
well,
were you thinking?
I was like, here we go. Let's get some 9s.
Yeah, the 9.
We had an order of basically 8s. 8s with 1 5 and
Ooh,
one,
we took the
one,
5
one, one more 6 as
Did
well.
you have one that you thought was particularly bad?
There was one that was, yes, it was actually the only one that was not in
Oh,
the sealed
okay.
case.
It might have scratches.
They didn't even have a top loaded. It was
Okay.
just floating around for 20 years. You know,
Right.
just so that one I knew was going to grade low, but they just gave us 8s, which 8s are still worth a lot of money, which is fine. But
Yeah, we talked about you selling the 8 from the Eau Claire show. And then I said, well, are they still at $5,000? Because that's.
they were 3.
Couple grand
and then they were
more.
5.
And then you said that you saw one at 6.
Yeah, the last couple are at 6.
Wonderful.
So
Doubled in 2 weeks. 3 weeks? 2
yeah,
weeks.
a couple 3 weeks, something like that. So
Next one is just something I noticed. Ja Morant's back and balling.
they're playing tonight. He's
uh,
playing Zion tonight.
18.4, 2280. He's up in points and assists from last year when he won Rookie of the Year. Steals and blocks are the same. Turnovers are down, and the only thing that he's really down is rebounds.
Prices are down.
The what?
His card prices are down.
Yeah, so he's actually
Interesting.
playing better than last
Yeah.
year.
I have a theory
what
on
you
that. Prism as a whole is down.
Too many.
Yeah.
Zion's down, Luka's down.
Yep.
The guys that are playing and not playing. I think a lot of the money right now, obviously, is moving into vintage. Like you have a lot of guys buying
baseball.
Jordan LeBron. You see some massive price movements on guys like Garnett, Iverson. And part of it is, I think we talked about last week, the modern guys realizing, wow, these guys are like all-time greats. Why are they selling for less? But then I also see a movement of young collectors. I have a customer of ours who has a PSA 8 Jordan. He was trying to move in trade for a Julius Erving rookie
wow.
8 or a Maravich. So there's guys who are like realizing, wow, these vintage cards are pretty cool. These guys are really good.
Right.
A high-grade vintage card, there's
Extremely
just
rare.
I walk in a show and I see everyone has a Luka PSA 10 Prism rookie,
Right.
and no one has a Pete Maravich rookie at all.
Right.
So
Or
I
Duke
think
Snyder rookie.
yeah, or a Hank
8.
Aaron, or so. I think you have these ebbs and flows, and I actually think this is a good time to buy guys like Zion
Right.
and Luka and Ja
Yep.
Prisms. You know,
Down, yeah.
So that's just something I noticed today. This is really small sample size, but I had 3 Jason Pierre-Paul autos that I sold this week.
yeah,
3 different buyers.
Nice.
So it wasn't that I sold 3 to one guy, but the only thing I take away from that is if you have Pierre-Paul, just
If
sell
you have
Like-
any player that was on the Bucks
Yeah.
that played, I mean, we shipped all of our Devin Whites. I don't
Yeah.
think I had a Pierre Paul auto.
you might as well just sell it unless you want to keep it forever. Because
Yeah,
it's
I
going to
mean,
regress right back to where
for
it's,
sure.
not that it's going to be worth less, but it's just not going to sell.
I mean, we've even seen Brady's stuff come down off kind of the initial high of the Super Bowl win. So I mean,
What's Mahomes looking like?
Mahomes is taking a little hit as well. I
Yeah.
think.
How much of
and
a hit do you think he's taking?
Percentage-wise?
Let's take a peek actually at it.
15%, 20%?
Well, while you're looking,
I'm not quite sure it's even that much, but it's probably closer to like 10 to 15. Yeah. something
That's
Yeah,
all
you're
right.
thinking like big dollar amount. Like, that's a big percentage.
Yeah, and the high-end cards are a little. So here's the thing about a high-end card: it has more upside to move dollar-wise,
Yeah.
and it also has more potential risk.
Absolutely.
right.
So, like, I mean, today we were talking before we were on air, as John hates
on
when
air.
I say it. The Ricky Henderson PSA 10
Yeah.
on auction last night went for $180,000. That card for a decade was between 30 and 40,000.
Which was a massive card.
It's still a massive card. I mean, the pop's pretty small, I guess, on that card, I would think, even though it's 1980. So, I mean, literally, we're talking about a 1980s baseball card in 10 going
There was
for...
never a lot of 80s that really you ever saw that were nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's always soft corners. It's always off-center.
Yeah, off-center's bad.
I mean,
that year.
and there's a huge drop between a 9 and a 10. So, as I look at Donruss Mahomes Optic 10s, they're at about, last sale was at about 2,300. Maybe it's only down a couple hundred on that one. Let's see what a paper...
10%.
Yeah, it's
About
probably...
right.
A paper is probably 16. That was as high as 2,200. So,
Okay.
so I
A
mean,
decent drop.
I think part of that too is like people. It wasn't his fault, you know.
Yeah.
He played
Yeah.
the best he could, you know, with
yeah,
what he had.
I
so
don't think anyone's putting it all on
Yeah.
him. And I think actually, I think we could even see an off-season spike of his
Yeah.
stuff back up as you
Right.
prepare for next season.
Well, we talked last
yeah.
podcast. I said customers came in and said, "Oh, Mahomes didn't have a good game." I said, "What game were you watching?" I thought, great game by that guy.
Yeah. And I think the more people that are in the hobby, the more transactions that are taking place, the less the off-season dips and spikes are going to be. There's going to be a steadier.
Interesting.
There's more people aware of that, so that becomes less of an opportunity.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know one way or another, but because we have so many new collectors, the amateurism in the hobby is really hot,
Sure.
and so I probably.
Well, I mean, I had a guy today.
If I had to
I had a
take
guy
a
today who
road.
literally was grading cards, who didn't. And I'm not saying this to like make anyone feel bad. Didn't know how to look up a sold listing on eBay,
right,
yet.
right.
And I'm
I
like,
have it all
wow,
the
I
time.
totally forget. Like they type it in on eBay and they don't realize like you're not looking at sold cards. You're looking at cards that people have priced that aren't sold.
Right.
Which is valuable information still, but it's not
It's
as valuable.
secondary.
It's secondary information.
You look at the sold,
Yep.
and then if there's not a lot of data, then you say, all right, let me see what's active. So, like, I have a borderless Jordan 9OC, and there's not a lot of sold, then they're real volatile. Then I go, all right, well, how many are listed? And you see there's 2 listed, and they've got massive prices on it. Well, I'm probably really not going to look at the sold prices. Sold prices, I'm probably going to price it higher than the sold prices by a significant margin.
Well, and even like related to those Jordan Nikes, like right now there's 29s listed on that rookie that we just
Okay.
got back, and there's like 17 8s. And so I look at sold listings, but I'm also going to look at pricing it related to how many.
There's a lot of suppliers.
Yeah, well, and where do you want to land on the spy? Like, I'm not in a hurry to sell them for
Right.
cheap. It's a Jordan rookie. Like, so sometimes what you do is you see that initial, like, the people who are desperate to sell it, they're
Right.
pricing one way, and then you kind of move yourself. You figure out which range you want to land
And there's
in,
some
you know?
cards where you think there's a lot of upside to it. Like, I got no problem being not only the highest price guy,
Yeah.
but like double everybody else.
Yeah, you're just going to let it
because
go.
it's just
Yeah.
like
let the other
it'll-
one sell.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to hit that target, and so I call that target pricing. I don't know if that's a term.
It's no different than in stocks. You put in different orders. You can put in
Oh, yeah.
limit orders where you're saying, I want to sell if it gets to this price, or I want to buy if it drops to this
Right.
price. It's no different on eBay. A lot of people put buy it nows out there. It's like
People
instead
get
of
real mad
in
at
other
you,
words,
though.
in other words, like let's say I have a card, I don't really want to sell it. I can either wait until it moves up that I decide I want to sell it, or I can just price it at that and then
Right.
say if it never gets there, I'm just going to hold. you
But,
know?
I mean, be clear, you're going to get, depending on the card, you
Yeah,
can get
people
some
love-
emails. Like,
yeah.
this is the, well, I'm like, buy the other one, dude. Like,
Well, you can do the offers too. You can maybe see what it's worth at the current time.
yeah, it's
Allow-
good.
What
lot of
people
best
are going to
offers.
give you, yeah.
Yeah, so you put a high price and you just
Yeah.
kind of want to feel where people are at.
Yeah.
And whether you have a lot of activity, too.
Yeah.
So,
They'll
like,
let you
if I
know.
put a high dollar amount and I get no offers,
Yeah.
then I'm like, eh. But if I'm getting a bunch and they're all kind of clustered, that can be valuable information.
for sure.
So this is just a little story. Rick, customer of mine. What up, Rick? So he's at the Maple Grove Target.
Mm-hmm.
The stalker was taking forever, right? There's a line of people. He's first in line, right? But he's got a job, right? So he's like, the stalker's taking forever to merchandise the show. And so Rick's like, all right. So he sells his spot for $30. I think he sold it cheap, though.
Wow.
I mean, although when you're living in quantities, being first in line is not anything particularly special. But yeah, I got $30
for nothing.
Well, it means you're getting a Mega instead of a Blaster.
Yeah,
Or you're
and
getting
so yeah, fair enough.
Wow.
And then he's talking to the guy who stocks, and he said that recently he was being harassed by a guy. Like, guys, stop harassing the people stocking this place.
Well, there was an actual full-on like
Cops
fight.
were called, customers removed by the police.
Wow.
Like, here's the thing. I talk about this all the time. You have to understand who are the types of people who take a merchandiser's job. They don't want to talk to people. They want to be left alone. They just want to do their job and leave. They want to be a ghost, right? And so the fact that you're even talking to them, I'm sure there are plenty that are social butterflies, but most of them are probably not, right?
Right.
They don't want to talk to people. That is why they took the job, and now all of a sudden the job has to dealing with irate baseball cards.
It just looks bad on the hobby too, and like I just
Yeah.
want to tell people, like especially like dealers, people that own stores like you, John, people that represent. I mean, I'm not saying any one person carries the burden of it, but like
Right.
just think that like you may be the one encounter someone has related to sports cards that's not into cards, and
Yeah.
they witness this, a bunch of grown men fighting over. It's just like it doesn't help. It doesn't
Right.
help.
I did see a post on Facebook right before you showed up today. It was a leaked memo. I mean, it's so crazy. We got leaked memos.
Yeah, I saw that too.
You saw that?
Yeah.
So they're keeping all the cards under lock and key
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
So there's a big plastic thing, and so that's how they're controlling quantity limit.
Well, they
And
put it on the checkout too. You can only get.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Link
that's like
to
in the
your-
system. If you try
yeah.
to ring up more,
And so
it won't let you.
one of my customers told me today, what you do is you actually go up to them, tell them what you want, then they somehow like call you or they
Text you.
message
You get like a-
text you, and then
yeah.
they tell you it's ready, and then
Oh,
you go
yeah, that's
and then
cool.
you go
Yeah.
pick it up.
Oh,
So
it's
it's
not bad,
no
yeah.
different than the video games at
Yeah.
Walmart. They're in I mean,
Right.
you can't just rummage through them, I mean.
Yeah.
You have
It's
to- you have
usually
to
because
get
of
some-
theft, not because of people fighting over it.
I would say theft
Ow.
is a real risk with
Yeah.
that
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
But now the problem is they're selling so fast. There's no one stealing
Yeah.
them because you know,
Really, most of the theft that occurs is either searching, which is not technically illegal, but the main
Frowned
theft
upon.
is what?
Frowned upon.
Frowned upon, or weighing the packs or what
Yeah.
have you. But the main theft is having a shrink wrap machine, putting a bunch of 90 score in there and returning it.
Yeah.
Really, if they just
I had
took
a
the no return policy,
we had a
that would
customer
fix
open a
it.
box of hoops and there was Game of Thrones cards in it.
Good time. Oh wow, not even sports.
No, not even
Just
sport, not
mocking
sports.
you at that point. All right, last one non-baseball on my side. Nicholas
Vaghi.
Vaghi. He had a
Nick.
question.
Nick. What up,
What up,
Nick?
Nick? He says, this is going to be exact quote. Could you guys talk about how and what you use to ship your cards on eBay? Yeah, we already talked about that.
Okay.
There you go. And then maybe we'll expand a little bit. And also your thoughts on how you approach, negotiate, how you approach in your mind or how you're going to negotiate when going to a card show. And so I think what he means is like, on the way to the card show, what's sort of
I
your
was gonna say,
general plan?
do you need help reading that?
Well,
over there?
it was
that got
approach
really
slash
difficult.
mind.
Wow, just
It was
the
an
guy who was
approach-
claiming to have this
Hey,
massive
I'm going to make
vocabulary.
fun of Nick here.
Okay.
It says approach slash mindset slash negotiate. I don't know how to say that in English.
Okay, I gotcha.
I know how to read it. I don't know how to say
Okay,
it.
okay.
We're going to a card show and said, I appreciate the hard work and the content you put into it.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
No problem. Thank you for listening, dude.
Yeah.
He's way more important than we are. Like,
No, Nick's great.
Like, I'm one of the 100.
Nick worked for us in the offseason. He played baseball for Memphis and definitely has been involved with cards for years, a lot longer even than me. Like, he was doing it 10, 12 years ago.
Right.
And so it's
So
been fun
first
to
question,
chat with him.
how you ship your cards? I think we talked a lot about it. I'm a cardboard sandwich poly bag. Top load has to do with prices. If it's worth enough, but that's for me. That's not for the customer. I'm protecting myself.
One new thing I recently added, we actually do cardboard around graded cards, and we found these large resealable team bags that fit graded cards.
No.
And mainly it's twofold. The
How do
cardboard,
you ship your graded cards?
So cardboard pieces on each side
All right, sandwich.
in a massive team bag that's actually big enough for
Okay.
a card. It's resealable.
Okay.
And then that's where we put in, we actually have a packing slip, plus we put in something for the podcast now. And so that actually houses all of that. So you have that go on the outside of the cardboard, and then that goes into a bubble mailer.
I do a cardboard sandwich, 8x6x4 box, and then I have that.
A graded card goes in a box?
Graded cards go in a box.
Interesting.
I do not want
What's the weight?
7 ounces.
So I do them, unless it's a $500 card or more, those go in cardboard sandwich in a bubble mailer. Otherwise, we go into a small flat rate box.
I'll put it this way. The reason why I did that, I realized I was sending $15 hats in boxes because they're hats and they have to go in boxes.
Yep.
The $15 hat can go in a 40-cent box. Why can't the graded card go in a 40-cent box? And so, all the bubble that we get from the distributors when they send us cards, I just keep all that stuff. I put one on the bottom, the sandwich card in the middle, another one on top, 8x6x4 box. I'm just worried about it. Here's my theory is, if it gets crushed, I can't fix this problem quickly. Right? I send it back to PSA. I gotta wait however long. I gotta pay for it. I mean, it's $1. It's maybe $1.
Right.
In increased weight and the box. What graded card is not at least $20? It's not even 5%.
Yeah.
Then when you get down to $40, it's 2.5%. It's a nothing. So cardboard box for me ungraded. Why don't you bring up what you were telling us before we went on air about the flat rate bubble?
Oh, flat rate bubble mailers. So I learned this from PWCC shipping us graded cards in quantity, and if you guys have ever gotten them from them, they actually take a flat rate bubble mailer, which is free from the post office if you use priority.
You do have to order it. You can't just pick it up at the post office.
You can pick up all the other boxes, but not. Well, they might go in the back room for you and pick them up sometime. A little bit depends if it's like
pretty rough,
if it's your local post office or your regular. But the cool part is the PSA boxes that cards come back from PSA in are a standard size. They hold, I think, 20 slabs generally. If you have thicker graded cards, you might lose one, but whatever. And so you can actually take those boxes and tip them on their side and stack 2 of those perfectly tight inside a flat rate bubble. So you can literally ship 40 graded cards for $785? $776. So you can ship 50 cards for that weight, which we do when we ship cards to PWCC, and then we also do it when customers need graded cards.
These are very well made boxes that come.
Yeah, those boxes are solid, and the way they stack, it actually gives form to that bubble mailer, and it's because 40 cards you're saving a lot of money if you put those 2 boxes.
Quite a bit, a couple pounds.
If you put those 2 boxes in a regular priority box and paid for the weight, I would guess it would be twice that or more. So obviously, I took notes from PWCC because they're shipping.
Depends on where it's going too.
Depends on where it's going, exactly. If it's going to Hawaii, especially, you're going to save money. So use those, and you can just put 1 box in there and fold the mailer over so that the box isn't floating around within the mailer.
Right.
But so that's a little.
Now the second part of it is what's your general approach going to a card show or going to buy?
Are you talking about buyer or seller?
I think he's talking about buying.
Yeah, so
I don't know. It's kind of ambiguous. I took it as buying.
Do you want to start with your approach in Eau Claire? Last time you were on the show.
So I think we talked about this a little bit on a previous podcast. Is Eau Claire was the first time outside of the National, but the National was kind of like kid in a candy store at that booth. Like I was just pulling dollar cards like crazy.
Did you buy much from anyone who it wasn't either the dime boxes or that dollar?
I think I spent $75 at the other table.
Okay, so
but I spent a couple grand.
So that sets your negotiating. When it's a dime box, there is no negotiating, right?
Well, you can. If you buy enough, you can be like, well, how much if I fill up this monster? You can do that.
And we saw Rob from Burbank and those guys negotiating with.
Oh, absolutely.
With Brent saying how much per box. And
then
they create a box price.
Right, and he probably bought 63 rows at least.
Rows,
and so and then actually because he negotiated, here's the best part of that, because Rob negotiated that price, my second 3-row I bought, I got that price.
Right.
Because I already bought one at sort of like, I got a little bit of a discount, but not a big discount.
Yep.
Because I did fill up a 3-row.
Right.
And then the second time, a couple days later, I fill up a second one. He's like, I'll give you Rob's price. So I'm like, all right, what's up?
Nice.
So thank you, Rob.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I appreciate that. Just few bucks I got, but like Eau Claire was, I've never went to a card show to buy.
Yep.
Never had a bankroll for it. That was never my intention. I've never been a dealer. I've had tables, but that was me just selling cards for my collection. It's not. There wasn't any inventory. I didn't look at inventory. I just looked at cards I didn't want anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it is a very different mentality because you're going in there with a purpose, and especially on my end, I had to shut down the shop for half a day, and then so there's a cost associated. So I better make sure that I'm buying enough to justify the trip.
Yeah, let me give two different thoughts, two perspectives. And this actually happens in real time for me at a card show. I go in and out of buying for the store to resell and then buying as a collector for my own personal collection.
Oh, yeah.
And my negotiations vary based on that.
Correct.
In other words, if I'm buying a card, a Molitor PSA graded card, I'm willing to pay a little bit more out of my collection. So one of the questions I would ask back to Nick is, what's the goal of that purchase? So there's a place for, and I would say there's I'm buying it to resell it immediately. Now I need to negotiate a little bit more difficult, a little harder. I'm buying it as an investment that I'm going to sell it 20 years from now. In other words, when I go in to buy a stock right now, if I'm planning on holding that stock for 5 years, I'm less concerned with getting it at the cheapest price because I'm not going to touch it. I'm not selling it for 5 years.
But if you think it's going to helium in the next month, because like with my Wanders aren't 20 years. My Wanders are 3 months.
Right.
So
that card, it's more important in the short term for you to get it.
The price is relevant, but not as relevant.
It's not as relevant. And then the other question is, like, are you just buying it as a collector because you enjoy it? You're putting a set together. So in other words, and I'll say this much, you would think some people could take advantage of me, but actually when I'm buying Molitors, I'm so aware that I'm the only guy buying them that I actually tell every dealer, I go, just so you know, I pay $20 for like a non-numbered Molitor auto. I'm never paying more than $20 because I've literally bought 100 of them.
Now let's be clear. If your guy is called Trout or Jordan, that does not work.
Correct. Right. So the benefit to collecting a guy who literally these dealers aren't selling the card.
If you are a Ron Thay collector, you can basically set your own price.
But there's other Hall of Famers that are the same. Like Cal Ripken, there's going to be guys who they're not selling him nearly as fast as they're selling.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank.
I think Ripken would be like sort of mid-tier there.
Yeah, mid-tier. Griffey's a much more aggressive.
Malter's very much bottom.
Yeah. I mean, whereas like Griffey Jeter, I'll say this much. Part of it is you have to be aware, is the card I'm buying being bought by other collectors? Right. Or is it being bought by collectors and investors and flippers? So like you go into Jordan, you have all three in one. The collectors are going to pay more. Right. The investors are going to pay a little bit less, and then the flippers want to pay and so like.
But
these
are
so
actually
like they're actually helpful thoughts to have about like, okay, like I'm actually gonna be competing with a lot more people on this player.
No, so we actually should one day just come up with a list of all the Hall of Famers, especially in baseball.
Yeah.
Like you could just buy for nothing. I'm like,
I collect
Molitor's one.
I collect the two cheapest.
Dave Winfield's one.
Two. Eddie Murray's another great.
Eddie Murray's one. Actually, Rafael Palmeiro would be.
How about Harold Baines?
Harold Baines doesn't belong in the Hall.
Canseco.
He's not in the Hall, but is he? No.
Canseco's actually got a lot of activity.
But he's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
No, he's not. But he's a mid-range kind of guy. He's not a low-end guy.
I'm blown away actually by
a lot of people
the interest in. There's a lot of guys like that. Bo Jackson in baseball and football is like,
Bo.
super highly collected.
Do you have anything that's non-baseball related?
No.
All right, take it. Let's let the baseball guru Clint start us off.
Oh, really?
You were all hyped about the WAR thing.
So here's what I'm going to start. I'm actually going to start with the Vegas odds for teams winning the World Series, and I think the reason this is valuable information is I think it tells us a little bit where the hype is.
Yeah.
Now that can be opportunity, and it can also be related to cards. There can be an inverse relationship, right?
Right.
So the favorite to win it all are the Dodgers, which I think are rightfully so. They're plus 350. The Yankees are close behind them at plus 550. And then we go back to the Padres, who we've talked about. The White Sox actually in the American League. That's interesting. They're the number 2 American League team at plus 850. The Braves are plus 1,000. The Mets are plus 1,000. The Twins at plus 1,800. And and then the Blue Jays at like 2,200. And there's a couple other
I
teams.
put a
at
bet
each
down
of
on the
those
Blue
levels.
Jays at 2,200.
So the reason I bring this up is the teams that are not supposed to be. So let me say this: there's a team that you think is going to be winning.
Yeah.
That I think like a team like the Mets at plus 1,000
Mhm.
have a bunch of things going for them, and then I'm going to tie this into the WAR. One of the things about the Mets is they're the right market.
Right.
They should bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's opportunities for players on teams. I
Right.
think you should actually be buying cards at times based on the team.
So
they
if
play
you're
for.
looking at Mets, you would say, I'm going to give a closer look to Gimenez.
I'm going a little bit more mainstream of like I think Pete Alonso is going to bounce
Yeah.
back,
Right.
and I think he.
No, I'm talking from a prospect standpoint.
Okay, yeah. So you have two sides. You have the vets on the team who, like, for example, I think it, and we're going to talk about value in a little bit. I think like Aaron Judge, for example, is a massive buy because I looked at the PSA 10 value of an Aaron Judge 2017 Topps rookie. They're selling between $130 and $150. Pete Alonso selling between $40 and $60.
Yeah,
Bryce
40 is a good
Bryce Harper selling like $175 to $200.
I think
and then-
Bryce Harper might be a massive buy.
Absolutely, I agree. And just so you guys are aware, like I owned very few of these guys, so
Right.
I'm not like picking guys that I already own. I'm trying to.
Well,
I'm
let's
not,
add
like,
on to something.
Yeah.
You know who Jake Scully is, right?
No,
Exactly. He was one of my favorite prospects of all time.
sure.
Like, I think Evan knows him when I mentioned his name. But I thought he was going to be Carlos Beltran. He never got an at-bat in the Major League. So,
Yeah.
when we talk
This is
about
not
what
a
we
pump and
think,
dump. Yeah,
understand, like,
and we don't have the ability.
even if we have a high rate of success on prospect, a
Yeah.
high rate might be 40-30% correct.
Right.
It's almost like a batting average in baseball.
Right.
But this is true across all sports.
Yeah.
Right? If you're right 3 out of 10, you can actually make money prospecting.
Yeah.
So think about this for a second. Aaron Judge and then Mike Trout. Mike Trout's 10s are at like between 6,000 and 7,000.
Yeah.
So think about this for a second. Let's just say 6,500 is the Trout number. Aaron Judge is 1/50th of the price.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Bryce Harper is about 1/40th of the price, and Pete Alonso is literally 130th of the price. So in other words,
One-
130
yeah.
times is and so what I'm saying is like if obviously you have the move with Lindor that I saw that the guy
Yeah.
who's second most likely to win the Cy Young behind Garrett Cole
Syndergaard?
is DeGrom.
Oh,
I think
DeGrom,
DeGrom's number 2. So think about this: you have like the Mets; they're in the right market. Their owner literally just bought PSA. Pete Alonso hits a ton of home runs, and his rookies are 1/130th.
My only counter to that is they're the Mets.
I know, they're the Mets.
the
yeah.
little brother of the Yankees.
They
Yeah.
But they
are.
always tend to,
Yeah.
like, not do it.
Yeah,
That's the only counter to what you said.
as an investor or trying to see opportunities for this is more veterans, and we'll obviously let you guys talk some prospect stuff. Like I see guys like Judge, Alonso, Harper, and then I'd even go further. How about this? Guess who's the number 1 WAR leader from 2020? Did I say this already?
Yeah, you said it tough.
No,
Go ahead.
I didn't. No, I didn't. Jose Ramirez for the.
Oh, no,
Indians.
yeah,
Can you do
I
that?
came up with that name.
Freddie Freeman was 2. Shane Bieber was 3. Mookie Betts was 4. Now I looked up,
Jose Ramirez, nobody is aware that he's doing what he's doing.
and now the problem is he
No,
plays
that's
for
a bad
Cleveland.
thing,
He
right?
plays for Cleveland. That's the
But
problem,
if
right?
nobody is aware, then
Yeah.
his cards won't go up. At some point, somebody had. That was the problem with Freddie Freeman. I've
Right.
been saying Freddie Freeman for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until, like, middle 2018, somebody on Blowout was like, hey, anybody looking at Freddie Freeman? I'm like, yes, I've been looking at Freddie Freeman. And then he ends up winning the MVP. And here's the thing. His cards didn't go up all that much.
Yeah.
No.
PSA 10's under 300.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Like, and so I looked at current WAR of active players, and it's interesting. So Trout, believe it or not, is number 2, and
Yeah.
he's been playing for 10 years, and he's behind Pujols, who's number 1, who's been
Right.
playing for 20,
Right.
which is an amazing reality.
How
Pujols
far
has-
apart are they?
Pujols
though?
has 100.7, and Trout's at 74.6.
Wow.
But then you get down the list. Most of the next guys are longtime veterans. Miguel Cabrera's 3rd, Robinson Cano's 4th, Joey Votto's 5th, 6th is Evan Longoria, then Ryan Braun. Number 8 is, I think, the guy who is the most undervalued based on his performance up until this point, and it's Mookie Betts.
Okay.
Mookie Betts has a 45.4 WAR, and he's played 2 less years than Trout, and he's the second when you think about guys who are in the second tier of their or the first tier of their career versus like
first half of their
first
career.
half. I don't know how you want to decide, but like if you break their career into 3 tiers,
Right.
you only have 2 guys, Betts and Trout, that are that high who have played less than 10 years or 10 years or
Right.
less.
Yeah, you're at 10 years, they're in that middle.
And-
if you're breaking up in 3, they're in the middle.
And I want to say Mookie Betts is about a fifth of the value in a PSA 10 of Trout.
I'd have to look at prices though, but I think you already said a name that's a better value, and that's Miguel Cabrera, because he's already done that. He's a guaranteed lock. He's going to be 3,500
But-
home runs.
The one thing I'll add is Betts plays for the right team too.
No,
He's
that's true.
on the team that's
That's
going to be in the
absolutely
World Series,
And they just won too.
and they just won. So, and he's in LA, whereas Cabrera's played in Detroit.
But here's what's
and
going to happen
Miami.
though.
It's,
Cabrera's going to knock down 2 massive milestones 2 years in a row.
No, I
And
agree.
we talked about this before. Which one is he breaking first, most likely?
Home runs.
Home runs. And
He's only
then
like
3,000
15
hits.
away or something like that.
So Mookie Betts is PSA 10 out of Topps update in 2014, just sold for $1,000.
Wow.
So literally, I mean, you're getting arguably the second best player in baseball
Right.
at a
Maybe the first.
at a literally 80% discount
Right.
of Trout. Now we have talked
You look
about
up
this.
Miguel Cabrera.
Now we talked about this.
Traded.
Sports cards are disproportionately weighted towards the actual number 1 star.
Yes.
So I'm not saying Betts will ever be even 75%, but what if he got to 40% or
Right.
30% of Trout? Or so my question to you before we started recording was, so do you think Trout comes down or Betts goes up? Or do you think that they're actually in an accurate
So when you asked
relationship?
that, I said, let's save it for the podcast. So
Yeah.
my argument is, I think the way you phrased it was either Trout has to come down or Betts has to go up.
Because I think the ratio's wrong.
Right.
Don't you?
But the reason why I said I had to think about it, but I probably disagreed, was because we all know the best guy always operates at that sort of a multiple over the second best guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miggy 805 was the last PSA 10.
So
805 on it.
traded.
What is that? Old?
Oh,
Three-
one, or just
Oh,
just
one top trade. I just bought one of those raw. at
That's
the
just
show.
top, not top traded?
No, it's
Top
a
traded.
It's
It's
a trade.
traded.
Oh, it is traded. Okay.
So I
Oh,
bought one of
traded.
those raw from a guy at the show, partly because of these conversations
Yeah.
about it. I'm just like, this guy's unbelievable. And I sent it to Grade. I think it's hopefully a 9, but I paid $40
Right,
for a Miguel Cabrera rookie.
right.
Think about that for a
that's
second.
ridiculous.
Last year during the peak, you probably couldn't even buy a Luis Robert for that. Or I mean,
Oh,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
It's
A
like
Chrome.
this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Oh, when
unbelievable.
Chrome first came out, Robert was selling for more than
for,
$40.
for more than $40.
That's something interesting too. Is December 31st that Miguel Cabrera went for 338, over
Wow.
double.
Oh, wow.
So
So,
that's
so
more
it's
than 2
starting to
months.
get some notice already
Yeah.
then.
Now I'll say this much about Cabrera.
I'm not the
He's-
only one that knows what that baseball reference exists.
So Miguel Cabrera, I would say, is less of a risk,
Yeah.
but he also has less upside than Mookie Betts, right?
Correct. Oh, no,
because,
correct.
Because the
Absolutely.
thing about like these guys whose careers are like near the tail end, it's like you know what you're getting,
Right.
and Betts is like early enough though. I mean, he's been in the league. This is gonna be his 7th year.
Mm-hmm.
27 years old. I mean.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
But he's already won MVP. And also this, you don't see MVPs move in the prime of their career very often, and he moved to literally the best
Right.
market.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's
Now,
LA.
I'll make a
you know.
case for another guy
Yeah.
that you mentioned is Freddie Freeman again, the
Yep.
current NL MVP. They just re-signed Marcell Ozuna
Yeah.
for a 4-year contract. Ozuna is super
Undervalued.
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 Now, he did a lot of team hopping. And when you team hop, people don't have enough time to become a fan of you, right? From
Yeah.
a local standpoint.
Yep.
Yeah.
But with that 4-year thing, and I mean, I know we're talking Dodgers and Padres, but don't count the Braves out to be the team in the World Series.
I mean, Acuna's good. I mean, they got some young people.
Well, they're in a division by themselves, pretty
Yeah.
much too.
And they got the arm
Yeah.
sport. They're very young arms. They're not like the Dodgers who are like,
So-
we're going to take the 4 best pitchers in the all of baseball and put them on one
So
roster.
talking about new teams, I think that's an interesting way to actually approach baseball.
Mm-hmm.
2 guys to me on new teams that I think pose potential. We already talked about the Mets, Francisco Lindor.
Yep.
On a new team, and he literally could be the face of that team. I mean, he's been
Yeah.
undervalued because he's been in Cleveland, and he plays the right position.
He could easily be the face of the Major League Baseball. He's a nice guy.
Yep.
What is his nickname? Mr. Smile or something?
Yeah.
Very
Like, he's just a
fun.
very
Yeah.
fun, friendly, perfect guy to put a marketing campaign around.
And so, I mean, you want shortstops and center
Yeah.
fielders, right? I mean, so,
Yeah.
and then the other guy actually is that I had a thought of. Now, he's not new to his team this year, but he's on the Padres, and it's Manny Machado,
Yeah,
actually. Because
he's-
if you look at career current WAR, he's in the top 20 of current players, I believe.
In terms of a younger player on the Padres taking that approach of, hey, the Padres are going to be
Yep.
a challenger for the World Series. They're going to be winning. There's going to be a lot of
They're
eyes.
going to be on ESPN.
But
right? They're going to be playing
more
on
of a
prime time.
helium potential. And that's
Yep.
when I start talking about my list,
Yeah.
my is going to be far more helium involved in mine, but a lot more risk.
Kind of like the penny stock versus the
Right.
mid cap versus
Yeah,
the.
and so you're talking
Yep.
mid cap and talking about penny.
Yep.
Is Julio Urias.
Okay.
Very highly touted prospect. Didn't really perform all that great. But if he's second baseman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Did he get how many at bats did he get?
I'm not sure.
And
I'm gonna look that up.
Did he even could he be? Is he going to be a rookie this year?
No, he's
No,
already
okay.
a rookie.
Okay, last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he has 2019 rookie. To be honest.
Okay, so he even got enough at
But
bats
it's,
too.
it's
Okay.
a highly talented prospect. Of course, that doesn't mean he's gonna do it, but he sells for so cheap. He sells for next to nothing. Like
Sure.
you can find probably top rookies in dollar boxes.
And you
That's
could
one of
find
those
out.
guys. If he has a good month stretch on the right team,
Oh yeah,
Yep.
you can see it going up.
he'll be
From
on
$1 to
MLB
$10 in a
Network
month.
every week. Yeah.
And that's
Right.
the thing too, is one of the things that brings value in cards is the marketing around the team winning too.
Right.
And so like a winning team, that's one of that. Now I'll say this much: to Mike Trout being in a lot of ways overvalued. One reason I wouldn't say he's overvalued yet is
'Cause no.
he's never been on a winner, and he's never been in the playoffs. Oh, he's been in the playoffs once.
Yeah.
But he's never
once,
he's never
dude.
had a bat in the World Series. He's never, and if he
That's
gets in
not-
the World Series, he's gonna hit a home run in the World Series. You know what I mean? Like I would almost bet it. You know.
I
So-
don't know. Would you say, in terms of long-term collectability, all right? This is a parlay game, right?
Yeah, I like it.
Trout's on the Angels, 10 years in, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think his card prices will be higher if he stays on the Cardinals his entire career, like Ernie
You
Banks?
mean the Angels?
Ernie
not the
Banks.
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
That's right. It's
They're
another
both
red
red
team. Yeah, they're
teams,
both
like
red. They're
whatever.
close.
Both on the Angels his entire career, like Ernie
Yep.
Banks, Mr. Angel, right? Or go to a team like the Marlins that 1 year they win it. And then he becomes this weird, like, 2-year Marlin, but they won it. I would argue staying on the Angels makes his cards better. A player that stays on one team the whole career has a lot of value in the hobby.
Yep. Kobe Bryant did it in basketball. There's few guys.
Joe
that
Mauer,
have- I mean,
Twins,
yeah.
Ripken,
Jeter.
Sandberg.
Jeter. I mean, Jeter's the most famous example of it in baseball, I think.
Yeah,
Because
I wonder if Favre leaving the Packers did a little hit on his
speaking
stuff.
of that, if you want to get off sports, I actually the other day had the thought. I think Brett Favre's the next guy to pop.
I do think.
And here's one
I
of the
thought that
reasons.
today.
Okay, he has a lot of rookies because it's 1991, but even in 1991, with how many cards were made, he doesn't have as many rookies as Sam Darnold.
No.
When you think of the vastness of the
And
product.
it's so cheap. I think
And
he
he's
had
so cheap.
Last time I looked at his 10, this was a few months ago, so it might be higher, was
Yep.
$80
Oh,
for an
man.
upper deck
and with,
rookie.
and with what's moving on the guys behind him, and even the guys after him, like
Right.
Manning. Manning's moving. All these, Montana's moving, and then you got Favre, who I think is a top 5, or is he top 10 only?
Oh, the quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks.
He's probably top 5 still.
Top 5.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't
Are you done with that first chunk?
Yeah. Let's talk. I mean, I have
All right,
more thoughts
so
on value.
I
buys.
got a few names.
Yeah.
So now I'm not taking a penny stock approach. I'm somewhere in between a penny stock and a mid cap.
Okay.
Like they just got a contract. They just got a patent.
Yep.
But we don't know what they're gonna do with it.
And I do have some prospect thoughts on penny stocks. So we can
Now,
get
so
that.
I'm not talking prospects here.
Yep.
We're well past prospect, but they're not made yet.
Yep.
First one I got is Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
23 years old. I think he was the number 5 prospect in 2018. His big thing in 19, it was fully expected he was going to get called up.
Mm-hmm.
And the Astros signed Michael Brantley. And I remember seeing that going, oh, that ain't going to be a problem. Brantley will get hurt. Somebody will get hurt. And
He
Brantley's
played
not
great,
going to perform,
yeah.
whatever. Anyway, Brantley was an all-star that year. right, whatever.
Right.
And so Brantley like blocked him like an extra year.
And they re-signed him too.
Yeah, and so
So,
he'll actually get some playing time this year.
Yep.
Right now, PSA 10 2019 tops like $35-50.
Kyle Tucker, to me, when you look at him, isn't he like one of the thinnest looking baseball
Yeah.
players you've ever seen? I'm literally like,
He looks like a baseball player.
and how does he hit the ball? But now the other question is, how do you think being in Houston in wake of everything that's going on with
He
Houston?
wasn't part of the cheating scandal.
Yeah, but he's still on the team that's now booed all the. Everyone is like.
But
has
he was
this-
not a member
No,
of
it
that
does,
World
but I don't
Series.
think people are that intelligent, John, to like actually put that together.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you think Jordan Alvarez will be affected because the fact
No,
he's on the
I don't
team?
think he'll be affected at all.
I think he will
Not
be.
Jordan.
I actually think he will.
And not Kyle Tucker, no.
Okay.
I'd be curious to keep an eye on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's just something.
If people
for
are
me.
like, oh, he's an Astro, like, I wasn't on that. What are you talking about?
Well, Tucker too. Brantley's kind of at the age where he's not fielding. He's gonna be a DH.
Right.
So I think Tucker will still play
Tucker's
Yeah.
going to play
more than.
And
he
Tucker's
will.
good. I mean, he had a good postseason against the Twins.
He
actually.
played
Right.
58 games last year in a shortened season. So.
And then what do you have? He had 9 home runs, 8 stolen bases. Now, one of the things I'll talk a lot about, and I'm curious what Evan thinks about this, one of the things I look at when I'm looking at prospect, especially minor league stats, is I look at their split between batting average and on-base percentage.
Yeah.
If you were to look at Josh Donaldson's minor league career, you would see a 400. I'm paraphrasing, but you see a 400 on-base percentage
Yep.
and a 230 batting average, right?
Wow.
And my analysis of this, and I think I'm correct, is that in the minor league, if you're a pitcher and you're trying to make the major league,
Yep.
you're trying not to get rocked,
Yep.
right? And so you get a guy like Donaldson, who I followed him from the year he got drafted. He was in my minor league system in fantasy league, so
Nice.
I literally looked up his stats every week his entire career,
Yeah.
entire minor league career. And what happened was I was always enamored by that on-base percentage.
Yeah.
And I think what was happening is in the minor leagues, the pitchers don't want to get blown up, so they take that really dangerous guy and they won't throw him a good pitch.
Yeah.
Right. He just
Well,
doesn't see much to hit. Yep.
So Donaldson's taking the walks, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, Donaldson's trying to get on a major league team, and he's swinging more at
for the
nonsense,
fences,
trying to
yeah.
get something done.
He doesn't have protection in the lineup like he'll have in the major leagues.
Right,
He doesn't
right.
have.
Then you
yeah.
get to major league, then it's like you can't pitch around
You
not pitch around Donaldson. What are you crazy?
No,
and
yeah.
then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
Which is
You're
interesting.
seeing his
Hey,
potential.
This actually shocked me. Josh Donaldson is 13th in current WAR
Yeah.
Wow.
of all active players. Josh
he
Donaldson,
was very much a late bloomer too.
he won an MVP. He was literally, now he switched positions, so that was kind of one
Oh,
of
he
the
was a
things.
catcher.
He started as a catcher, but
Yeah.
like he's a great defensive player. He's got a ton. I mean, he's actually involved in the hobby, which is weird that
That's really cool.
his
Yeah.
cards haven't really.
Well, they
taken
were
off.
the
super hot
top 10 in the MVP just last year. Not
Yeah.
this, but the
The year before.
Previous
Yeah.
year, the
Not-
last-
We're not as
Braves,
twin,
yeah.
of course.
Bra-
He was, and unfortunately, he was injured when we needed him in
Yeah.
playoffs.
Right. Now, for him, the problem Donaldson has now, he was super hot when he won the MVP.
Yep.
The problem with Donaldson, he started so late, he's never going to be able to compile the career numbers to make him a Hall of Fame guy.
I'm not sure about that.
He
I
could.
I'm not sure about that.
I am.
When you have a WAR that's already above a bunch of actual Hall of Famers, career WAR. What do you mean he's not he doesn't have?
Who is
he's
he
al-
above?
He's already got 41.5. I bet he's above 20 different guys in the Hall of Fame. Let's pull it up and see.
Well, from the dead ball era? Or
I'm talking
like,
about, MLB.
41 doesn't seem that high to me. Could be wrong
top
about
500 ever.
that. So,
Posey's
we got off on Josh
41.8.
Donaldson for some reason.
Posey's 41.8. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Buster Posey.
Is he
Well, yeah, I
a
don't
is
think
Posey
Buster
Hall of
Posey's a
Famer?
Hall of Famer.
Hey, he's on
No.
the way. He's on the way to it.
I mean, it's like he
What-
could
what-
be like he's Mauer. He's like Mauer could
He's
be.
about. He
you know,
won
but
though.
I can't make a case as a Minnesota fan that like he's a lock. You know, I can't make that argument.
Yeah.
Next one is Vlad Jr.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing about Vlad. Vlad was so highly touted.
Well, they called him up too early. I mean, it was,
Fair enough, but he
yeah.
was so hyped that when he had a good season,
It was average. Yeah.
it was a bad season
Yeah.
because it wasn't an awesome
What we
season.
thought. Yeah.
Right?
MVP.
And they're like, oh, yeah. We thought, he'll be third in MVP total and rookie, you know. And so last year, you know, it's not great, but it's 262, 9 home runs. Now, remember, we're talking about 200, 230 at-bats because of the short season. His no-numbered rookie out of top, PSA 9s are 60 to 65. PSA 10s are 200, 210.
Yeah, and they were half of that a few months ago.
Yeah.
So we're already picking
he
it
came
up.
back ripped.
Yeah.
He dropped, 30 pounds?
People saw that picture and they're like, oh,
Yeah, right. Now, a lot of people think some of that stuff's Photoshopped because people are looking at those Zion pictures. He look like He-Man. Yeah. But he's a guy who, because it's funny because he performed, he just didn't perform to expectation, and then the hobby kind of went away from him.
Right.
Now, at $200 for a 10, that's not cheap by any means, but we're talking about a guy who, had he performed, would have been $500-$600 10.
yeah.
I'm kind of spitballing there, but he still has a lot of people hoping that he's going to do real well, and willing to jump on him if he starts playing well.
He's still the age, too. He's only 21.
23.
Yeah,
23.
21 when we got called up, 23. Yeah. Good team.
Yeah, and a team that could
a lot of
be in the World
off-season
Series.
signings, yeah.
But that's the other reason why I put money down on the Blue Jays is the National League's got all these big teams. Who's in the American League?
Anybody could come out if they had a good stretch, yeah.
Absolutely. And so next one, he's a little older, 25, but had a much better year last year and much more affordable. Alex Verdugo. And what team did he get traded to?
He went from
He went
Dodgers
from
to
the
Red
Dodgers.
Sox.
Yeah, he went to the
was
Red
part
Sox.
of the Mookie trade.
He's part of the Mookie trade. He goes to another big market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hit 308
Which,
last
by the way,
year.
the Red Sox just got rid of Benintendi too. They're
Yeah,
just, are they
to the Royals.
They're just dumping the whole
Yeah.
team. Or what's
Yeah,
going on?
They're
I-
scrapping it, I think.
They're literally throwing in the towel, or what? I mean,
But
how
what
do
did
you-
they do with Benintendi? They were talking about they were going to waive him, and then somebody was ranting about that, but I never followed up on the story.
I mean,
Yeah.
who do they have left? I mean,
Nobody.
literally,
Verdugo.
no, the big guy is
They got Jeter Downs.
no,
No.
their best
A bunch
veteran
of
player. My
random-
mind's just going blank.
Maybe
Pedroia
Verdugo.
retired.
No, it's
Sale. I
No,
saw
he had a
some.
great year. Younger guy, was a rookie.
Devers.
Raphael.
Oh,
Devers.
Devers,
He's their best
yeah.
player,
Devers
for sure.
definitely a
Devers
guy
is-
He's
who
the
can
only.
And
Yeah.
Devers
pop
is
up.
actually probably a pretty good buy, I would think. He's pretty
Yep.
undervalued.
He's.
He had a breakout year last year.
Yeah, I have a Chrome auto of his that have priced very high, and I'm not lowering it.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt that.
Verdugo's a good guy. 2018 tops PSA 10s, $45-$50.
Nice.
He's still 25, and this is something I mentioned to you like a week or two ago, and you were surprised to hear it. And I can't remember who we were talking about, but he was like 26, and you go, nah, he's too old. So in the short term, that might be too old to compile career Hall of Fame numbers.
To be Trout, it's too
To be
old.
Trout, but the 27 year is considered the breakout year for baseball players.
Which, by the way, Byron Buxton
Yeah,
is at that. Isn't
Right.
He? And
Sano
Byron,
too.
and I want to
it's
sell you.
very often
Byron
that they break out
Byron
27.
Buxton, I know it's a homer call, but he's my buy because he has everything. The table is set for him if he could just get healthy
Right.
and combine his defense. He's had amazing defensive years. He started hitting a couple times and then got hurt. If that all comes together, he could be the second or third best
Right.
center fielder in baseball. Which, I mean, he's in the wrong market, but I think
I don't
so
think he's in the
cheap.
wrong market because Minnesota fans are pretty rabid when the Twins are doing well or when a player's doing well.
Yeah.
They'll buy their players.
Buxton got
They
an
don't-
MVP vote last year.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. What's up?
Let's
No, I mean, he was
go.
playing
16.
like one for a few
Let's
weeks
go.
out of the year.
Let's go. Come on.
go.
Let's go.
Next one, Mike Soroka.
Yeah.
He got hurt, had an
Braves, right?
Achilles injury.
ACL, yeah.
Really top end pitcher, and I'm not a good pitcher guy. Like I don't analyze pitchers like ever.
Yeah.
He's a guy I've been enamored with for a while.
Well, that's the
Sit-
thing too. Is think about what the Braves did without their best pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
You get him back, and then
Yeah, he could
Which-
be lights out for the Braves on a
Yeah.
winning team yet again.
Yeah.
Which Shane Bieber had the third highest WAR
yeah,
as a pitcher last year, which, wow, that's
Right.
what a statement. Now, I know his updates started taking off. Like, his
Yeah.
rookie really took some
Well, right,
steam
right.
last year, but where
But
do
it
you
looked
think
like
he's
the
at as
Indians
far as-
were going to go to the pennant in mid-ish season.
Yeah.
Which was late half season.
Yeah,
like
it's like
it was a
a-
weird year last
Thi-
year.
Which, how cool is this year going to be to actually have spring training?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
Now, I saw some minor league teams aren't playing though. I
Did they
noticed that,
do-
right?
a couple opt out. Yeah,
Yeah, they
Did
opted
they
out.
do 162 or 155?
It's 162.
It is
yeah.
162.
Next week is spring training. So
Yeah.
And
We're gonna
but
start
we might
hearing
end
some-
up at 155 if
We're
there's
going to
some
start hearing
COVID.
some stat. I mean, we're going to start hearing some things some
From
buzz
people,
around
yeah.
games
Right.
and players in the next couple weeks, which is going to be exciting.
So yeah, Soroka, a big fan. Should return by opening day. Blew out his Achilles. 2018 Topps update PSA 10, $50 to $60, but like a couple weeks ago, like there was some at 30,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is basically
Wait,
the cost of
what
grading.
What year was his update?
18.
18,
update. Next one.
Now,
is
let me ask you a question about
No,
cards.
good.
Do you see much? Which do you think is better, the Chrome update or the regular paper?
well,
Like,
Chrome.
But,
I
Chrome
mean,
but I'm
as
saying,
far as
I'm saying for the price difference. Like, do you think
I'd
it's
have
worth?
to look at the prices.
I've always thought about like just a base Chrome update versus the regular paper.
It almost seems
Partly
like the
'cause
Chromes
Trout
are
did-
undervalued compared to paper. Like the hobby's being weird right
Well,
now
but,
with
like
paper.
Trout didn't have Chrome that year, and like I
No.
know a lot of that's drawing out. Like we talked about some of his parallels. Like now you have twice as many parallels, right?
Right.
Because you have the paper parallels and the Chrome
Right.
ones. So as an investor, would you rather stick with like a paper gold, or would you rather do a Chrome refractor? Do you know
I'd
what I'm saying?
rather
Like
do
if you,
Chrome
if you
refractor, but
so if you
I-
could compare
that's a
apples to
personal
apples.
thing.
Well,
But I'd really have to look at prices.
refractors aren't numbered though, so I think you'd have to go with the gold numbered. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
But let's say I could go with a gold numbered or a Chrome numbered to the same, and I was
Chrome.
paying
The same?
proportionally the same. Which do you think has more ups? Do you know what I mean? Do you think they're
Well,
gonna move evenly?
So you're saying they're the same numbered Topps or Chrome? Which one do I buy?
Chrome has a
not,
low
not
print
if,
run.
but not if they're the same price. I'm saying you have to pay more for the Chrome.
The
Is
margins,
it worth paying more?
yeah.
Is it
Depends on how much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're missing a lot of details to make up.
I know. I'm trying to give you an actual scenario.
By the way,
Like-
every answer has been Chrome.
Hey,
Yeah.
which by-
Well, it's a lower print run, so.
if you guys are familiar with Sports Card Investor, there's a new aspect to it called ratio, where you can actually take
yeah.
ratios between refractors and base of different players and recognize one guy's refractors overpriced and another guy's
Bases,
base is
yeah.
overpriced.
Based on-
And so it
yeah.
actually, I think, it helps actually give the answer.
So
to my
by
question.
ratio, you mean like the base is $10, the refractor is $30.
And then another
But
guy.
then another one, the base is $10, the refractor is $20.
And specifically,
then,
they see it
yeah.
in Prism basketball silvers. Like Luka's silvers are a much higher ratio to his base than Trae Young's. So Trae Young, you should buy the base, and in Luka, you should buy the silver based
Right.
on the ratio. And the ratios are interesting, but.
Next one, Clint Fraser. I thought he was going to break out. What was his problem last year? He got hurt, and
Wasn't
then
he with the Twins?
you know what it was?
And then he left, right?
No, you're thinking of.
Oh, I'm thinking of the other guy from the Yankees that came. to
yeah,
the
you're
Twins.
thinking of.
The first baseman.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Clint Fraser. So what happened was Stanton got hurt,
Yep.
and I'm like, oh, here's a real opportunity for Fraser to
Yeah.
get some at bat, and then the entire league shut down the next day. I think it was literally like a day or two, and then he missed that sort of like I'm going to get an opportunity to hit. He did hit 267, 8 home runs, and 131 at bats. So 8 home runs and 131. We're talking, if you extrapolate that to 500, that's 30-ish home runs. So
Nice.
Is he gonna get the chance
real
though?
solid
And I
guy.
would guess you could pick up his rookies for like
Dollar.
Top update PSA 10 is 35 to 50.
Yeah.
And he's a Yankee.
He's a
right?
Yankee,
He's a Yankee.
Which, by the way, I think the guy, the other guy,
I'm sorry,
I like,
Topps update is 35 to 50. Chrome is 60 to 70.
the other guy I like on the Yankees is Luke Voigt.
Yeah.
Luke Voigt led all of baseball in home runs last year,
Right.
and he's with the Yankees.
I don't
and,
seem like nobody noticed, though.
and people don't realize his rookie's with the Cardinals, and I don't think they realize it's the
I
same
found
guy.
two
I
of
mean,
them in my stash box.
I've been
last year.
grading him actually because
Yeah.
I actually like his. You can buy the updates so cheap,
No.
and the 10s are I feel like disproportionately more valuable
Right.
than the raw. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
where you're like, wow, I can buy these for $5, and if they 10, they're 150 or 200. It's like,
I got two more. I mentioned this guy already. Marcelo Zuna signed 4 years. He's 30,
Yep.
but he has a real solid career if he can get that love from Atlanta. Had 18 home runs and 228 at bats. That's about a 40 home run season.
nice.
338, 431 on base percentage. I mean, there's nothing he didn't do last year.
Right.
And we're right in. So one of the things about baseball too is when you're trying to project career home run numbers,
Yeah.
people always go, "Oh, he's over 30." Over 30 is when all the power comes.
Right.
So they take a dip, and the stolen
Especially if, you're
bases
on,
go away.
especially if you're on steroids. No,
Well, no, but the stolen bases go away.
Yep.
Right, or drop. the average might take a bit of a hit, but the power comes on big because you're talking about a 30-year-old man is fully developed in terms of muscle and experience. So you're talking
Right,
about
his eyes got
pitch
better.
recognition.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
He's not physically slower yet because you don't get that until about 34, 35. But then you make up, even at 35, you make up for that with experience.
Let's be honest. Home runs sell baseball
Oh,
cards.
absolutely.
Home runs sell baseball cards. So, like, some of the guys I've presented.
Winning teams and home runs.
Winning teams are home runs. So that's why, like, Pete Alonso I like.
Right.
And that's why Luke Voigt, and Judge, all these guys that they're not necessarily the way you would build the team. I'd rather have Fernando Tatis Jr. to start a team.
Right.
But I don't know if Tatis's cards
Hey,
are going to – he's not going to hit as many as Trout will ever hit. He's not going to hit as many as but Betts. I mean, Betts has amazing power for his size, I don't know.
But he has a batting average to demonstrate, so does Tatis.
Yeah.
Last guy, Gavin Lux.
Lux.
Has completely underperformed.
Didn't even get called up. Didn't even make the team to start last year.
Yeah, didn't make it out of spring training. Plays second base, which is kind of a good thing because there's not that many good second basemen ever.
Yeah.
And so if you're the good second baseman, you always make the All-Star team.
Yep.
On the Dodgers, so potentially they're not going to be focusing on Lux.
No, their lineup is, and he's going to get to see a lot of good pitches. Exactly.
So he'll be hitting probably like 7.
Yeah, he's going to hit late.
But they're going to pitch to him. He was number 2 prospect in like 2018 or 2019. Like his pedigree is outstanding.
Yeah, I mean last year he only 69 plate appearances.
Right. I mean he barely got it.
So we don't even really
and so
know.
even that, he hits 176, but he barely got any opportunity to play. PSA 2020 top PSA 10s are $35.
Yeah.
We're talking double the cost of grading. So those are my guys who aren't prospects, even though Lux is probably the closest to the prospect. Maybe a little older, but guys who are got a chance to really helium up because they're going to get an opportunity. They might start, really performing this year.
Should we bring the big gun out of the bullpen here and
let's do it? What do you got, Evan?
Let's go, Evan. Put us to shame. He's like, you guys don't know anything.
I got a good prospect, Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Mariners system. We're talking about on base. His lowest on base, his career is 359.
There you go.
I mean, he had 514 on base in 2019, his best year. He hit 462 in the minors that year. Young guy, 19. I think the Mariners have a really good system. We could have outfield with him, Kelenic, and Kyle Lewis.
Kelenic's a top
those
10
three.
prospect too. Yeah.
Kind of a weird market.
We haven't talked anything about Kyle Lewis.
Yeah.
The guy won the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. I think everyone kind of forgot about him.
Are they going to be better, like, as a team?
I'm on the fence on Kyle Lewis, and I don't know why.
Well, I think he's a sell now because of the price. I don't think it's sustainable unless he.
Well, what happened was when I first opened the shop, is right when literally the day I opened the shop, Series 1 came out.
Yep.
The day before the day.
Yep.
And when people were busting Series 1, I was like, there's 2 guys I told everybody to hold on to that were selling for nothing, and it was Kyle Lewis and it was Nico Horner.
Yep.
I was 1 for 2. But he was just such a good prospect for what he was selling for, which was nothing. He was selling 50 cents for a Topps rookie.
I regret.
And I told all my customers,
I think I had a gold first auto of him back in the day. I remember.
Yeah, I would. Well, you should have listened.
I mean, I sold it for like $800 or something, but still like
$800. I think you did just fine.
Okay. But it was a gold auto to 50. I mean, that's a
fair
Bowman
enough.
first of
but if
Kyle
you got
Lewis.
that before he played or after he started performing?
No, wait. This is like a year after it came out. So what was it, 2017? He was 16
then
first,
you've had that money for 3 years. I mean, I think you did just fine.
But I mean, what's...
Well, that's probably not even $1,500 card.
No, I think it's quite a bit more than that.
More than that.
Gold Bowman first?
Yeah, gold Bowman first.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Bowman or Bowman Chrome?
Bowman Chrome. Bowman Chrome first.
Yeah.
I think it's probably 3,000 or something.
Yeah, Julio Rodriguez, I actually have on this list, and Kelenic. So, one interesting thing is, I ordered my Baseball America handbook. Comes out March 2nd, so you can pre-order it on Amazon. So I always pre-order it so that it'll just get shipped right away. And if I don't, I'll forget about it, and it'll be June, and I'll remember that. I never like doing it, but so in baseball they have scouting scales. The top scale is 80.
Mm-hmm.
So you think it'd be 100. I never did research why they stopped at 80. If it's 50, that's kind of average. 60 is good, and they refer to them as plus and plus plus.
Yep.
So 70, 80. I believe 60 is plus, and then 78, 80 is plus plus.
Above it,
Is that
above it.
right?
Yeah, it's average, above average, superior,
Right.
whatever.
And so, so really 50 isn't anything to worry about. 60 is good, 70 is almost great, and then 80 is the top of the scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kellenick is hit 70, power 60, and Rodriguez is hit 60, power 70.
So they're gonna have
both very
they're gonna
high
have
on
an
the scale.
amazing
Well, that's the
outfield,
thing,
is what
yeah.
we're seeing, right?
Long
With,
term.
with those three guys, their pitching staff is the big weakness, right? I mean, you got Felix Hernandez. Is he still pitching?
No,
today?
he's on the Braves.
Oh my goodness, keep playing. He's still pitching. We never talked about
No,
him.
right.
He's a Hall of Famer, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
King Felix? No,
Easily. Yes.
you don't think so?
Yes.
I have to look at his
He
numbers.
is.
So the
I
thing
think
with
he's actually. I
the
think he's
thing-
close to 300.
the
wins,
problem,
actually.
yeah, the thing with Felix is right now 300 wins is no longer a thing.
It's
get in the
close
Hall
to
of
a
Fame.
thing. It's like a step below a thing.
No, but what I mean
Yeah,
is
yeah.
you don't have to hit 300. You
No,
get
you
pulled
can
too
get,
early.
oh, you can get out. You can get in way easier. But
So
if you
I
get
think like
300,
200 wins might get you in the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame.
he's 169 wins, 3.42 ERA.
Yeah, so I think you might be a little below that 200.
He won a Cy Young.
190.
Which, by the way, Josh Donaldson is already ahead in career WAR of multiple pitchers that are in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
but not position players.
Yeah, I
He's
don't know
close
how
to a few position
weigh
players.
that.
Pitchers WAR, like, it's just you don't play as often. You know what I mean? So like your WAR is
Right,
not-
but
you
I mean, I don't know if I
accumulate
could
WAR.
ever compare a hitter with a pitcher
Yeah,
and
it's-
argue that
No,
one
that-
way or another.
But I'm just saying that Donaldson's had a way better career than people realize.
No, that's true.
Yep.
Definitely true. Oh, he was
Well, he was
so
in a
good
weird
for
market
years.
though too in the A's. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, Kellenick and Rodriguez. That's interesting that the Mariners are the only team to have. No, I take that back. The only other team with two prospects in the top 10 are the Padres with Mackenzie Gore
Yeah.
and C.J. Abrams. Which Abrams is
C.J. Abrams
somebody
I
that's
like
been
a
on my
lot.
radar now for a while, and I'm like, man,
he's
I,
a tough.
I wasn't
spot.
pulling his refractors like he plays shortstop. So
The thing
it's
about
where are
Abrams
they
is
gonna play him?
Abrams
move to
is
second.
what you refer to. So when I'm talking about cards, so 5-tool means what, Evan?
Fielding, hitting, well, home runs, power,
Power.
contact, fielding, speed,
So it's every tool that a
Everything.
baseball player could have, right?
Yep.
eye.
But in cards, 5-tool means you can be everything but defense, right? Because nobody gives a crap.
Yeah.
Now, there's a little caveat to that.
4-tool.
Is if you're on the highlights every day
Yeah.
as a shortstop, third baseman, center fielder, then that can give your cards a little bit of a bump.
Yeah.
But when you talk 5-tool, you're really talking 4-tool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then if you're a liability on defense,
Yeah, we forget about
it's
it.
not going to hurt you if you are Byron Buxton in the outfield. Maybe it can help you a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certain guys, their defense will help them, but a really good hitter's poor defense doesn't
Right.
hurt them.
It's not a massive drain.
Yep.
Abrams got a 70 hit and a power 50, so his power is not great, but he's an 80 grade runner.
Wow.
And so
Speed.
here's the thing: if you're gonna look at more of the prospecting scale, take the guy who has a higher hit scale than a higher power scale.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now here's the theory: if I'm Miguel Sano and I got unbelievable power, I can't connect enough to hit enough home runs, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
But if I have lost a lot of power, but my hit skill is a lot higher, I'm going to have more opportunities to hit more home runs because I'm connecting with the ball more. So if you see somebody who's 70-50 or 50-70, you want to take the 70 hit, the 50 power
Now let's
over the
let's-
50
let's
hit,
tie,
70
let's tie
power.
out the cards. Two guys that are probably the same era, and I think would probably be flipped. Joe Mauer and Joey Votto,
Yeah.
right? Mauer much higher contact, much less power. Votto more power. A little. I mean, Votto still got a good career average, but it's nowhere. It's like
Votto
probably
actually
it's
led
just
the
under.
league in batting
But
average,
it's just
yeah.
under 300. Versus
Yeah.
Mauer's like 318 or
I
something.
think what you're
And
arguing.
my question is like, how does that translate to cards at the end of the career? do you
I think you're using the wrong example. I think
Okay.
the example you should be using is Adam Dunn instead of
No,
Joey
he's
Votto.
way too low.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's
Adam
like
Dunn
extreme.
hit 40 home runs 4 years in a row.
But he hit like what 250.
Hit 201.
Joey Votto's 304, Mauer's
Yeah,
306.
We're talking about a
Votto's-
300
There's
hitter
someone
and a
else.
power hitter. I mean, we can't
I'll tell
compare
you this
that.
much:
Yeah.
Joey
Votto's just better.
Joey Votto's so good. Like,
Yeah.
he's of
He might be
active
he might
players,
be an undervalued guy.
active player career WAR. Joey Votto's number
up there.
5.
Yeah.
He's already a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Yeah.
He's already ahead of a ton of.
So that's why I said I don't think you're using the right thing. You gotta really be comparing with a guy who has low average, high power.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing. That's where I just talked about that. If you got a guy
Yeah.
with a 40 hit skill and an 80 power, he's not going to hit enough.
Yep.
Even if he
To
connects, Jeremy
compensate.
Burnett would be another guy. Hit a lot of home runs. It's just like when you're hitting 212, it's just.
I mean,
Another
what
thing-
is it? Josh Willingham was that for the
Willingham.
Twins?
Well, Willingham had a better bat now. He's like
Yeah.
240.
Well, another thing with power too is weight. You can put on
Yeah.
10, 20 pounds and get that extra 10 power
Right.
or whatever.
Yep.
Get 60, 80. You
So
know.
really, the superstars in baseball are going to be your Tatis, who are high average and high power.
Good fielding.
If you add those stolen bases on it,
Ronald Acuna.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you add stolen bases to that, you're talking upper echelons and
So let me ask you this: who do you like more out of? Let's talk about the hottest 4 or 5 guys over the last few years: Juan Soto,
Yeah.
Acuna, Tatis, and you want to throw Robert in there?
Soto.
Who do you like? You like
Soto,
Soto the
yeah.
most?
Soto's not even close.
Really?
Yeah.
You think Soto's better than Acuna?
Soto's just better than Acuna.
Well, he proved it on the biggest stage too. I mean, World Series. He's kind of like that. What we were talking about, the no
I think
fielding.
the Nationals
I
are
mean,
going to regress, though, so he's not going to
Yeah.
get such a bump from the team. But, yeah, Soto's the better player.
hitting
Well, I
wise,
shouldn't say by
he's-
far, but like, there's a real difference between Soto and Acuna. Although
At the
Acuna's
plate,
still
at
very
least.
high.
Yeah.
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 I'm
Acuna.
not arguing Acuna's not.
And let's be honest, Acuna has the personality similar to Tatis
Yeah.
of like the fun, the like.
He's similar to Lindor.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
the Lindor kind of feel. So I mean, I'm not going to say that's enough to compensate for.
Well, I mean, are we talking
performance
cards or are we talking about ability or number?
I mean, we're trying to kind of throw it all in the pot and saying what actually. I think part of the question we're
Because that
even
might be
asking
it.
is,
Soto
yeah.
might be the better player. Acuna might sell for more
Might
because
sell
of
for
the personality and being on the Braves. I mean,
Yep. And you might even see that on the same team. Like you might have Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero. One of them might be clearly better, but the other guy might sell for more, and that happens on teams all
I'm
the time.
curious, Evan. I think I know the answer, but try to take your bias out of here. Bo or Vlad?
Bo.
Card-wise.
Bo.
Marketing-wise.
Plays the right position. Vlad's going to end up being DH. So,
Okay, that's fair enough.
Both of them have dads who play. That's funny, man. Isn't that
yeah.
so
Well,
funny?
and
Both have
BGO
what?
too is on the team.
Dads who played,
Oh, yeah.
played at
And,
the same
well,
time
no,
of each other.
and they have BGO
Jake
too.
Colon, Biggio,
That's
yeah.
3.
Oh, that is weird.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
I didn't
Well,
see
I
that.
got something interesting here. Acuna and Soto both have played 313 games. Exactly.
Who's doing better
Soto
so far?
better batting average by 14 points. Acuna has more hits.
How's that
Acuna has
possible?
more home runs.
Ah, yeah. Acuna
Soto
has more power. Yeah, he
Soto
does.
more doubles, more runs batted in, more walks.
Mm.
Oh, more
Soto
walks, that's why.
Soto has 200 or 112 less strikeouts.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm a Soto guy.
Soto has on base better by 40 points.
Did you guys see that home run last year where Acuna literally dropped to a knee and hit it out?
Yeah, I saw
Like,
that.
there's some of those stuff that like people just go. Like, it's kind of like Luis Robert last year with
Yeah.
that one. He hit like the record
Over
home run,
the-
just
it went out,
literally
yeah.
a 400.
But I want to talk about this, and I talked about this last time. I'm going to say it again. Wander Franco is going to blow Luis Robert out of the water in terms of the hobby.
We'll see.
We're talking
on a weird team, though.
3 years
Well, I
younger
think
than Robert.
people are
was.
kind of sleeping on Jimenez too for the White Sox, right? Jimenez is gonna
Eloy,
play
yeah.
out Eloy. I mean, he was a big
Jimenez
time.
being a winning
He
team.
And
was
he
this Robert before.
And
Robert,
he was
yeah.
he was a Bowman Chrome first the same year as Tatis.
Yeah.
And it was funny they were both on different teams. Tatis was
I
on the
just got a great
Sox.
card back. of it.
Tatis was on the Sox. Jimenez was on the Cubs, and then they moved. You
Yeah,
know?
that's
So
funny.
people don't. That's another thing to keep in mind. Like some of these guys have been in minor league systems so long, people don't even realize like, oh, that's actually the same guy on a different. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
regularly, I come across and I like reminded that these guys.
Well, the other problem with
You know.
baseball. So I've always argued that we were talking about traits and intelligence. You know, we
Yeah.
were talking about my love for profanity.
Your
And I had
superior
said that I had read an
vocabulary.
article that smarter people swear more.
I would love to see.
Never actually looked into that.
Coming from the guy who does.
No, but
so-
I will say this, and I don't know if there's ever been a legit study on it, but I guarantee you the baseball fans are smarter than all the other sports. the amount of information
Yeah.
in order to enjoy the game of baseball
Yeah.
Sure.
is massive.
It's more
Yeah.
sophisticated in a different
Oh,
way.
absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of it's like I can be interested by like, oh, look at what the count is.
If you're an
Like,
accountant, you
you know.
like baseball.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You like numbers. You like. I mean, let me ask you this: How do you guys? What are your thoughts on sabermetrics as a whole in baseball? Do you like the evolution of the game?
I
as it's
think if you
related-
look at the WAR and if you look at ranking of WAR,
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of agree with the rankings.
Well-
Obviously, there's going to be some weird flips, but the guy with the highest WAR is the best player. I mean, I don't think that's
Well,
up for dispute.
something interesting this year is they're changing the baseballs again
That-
to
like how?
a different. They want to kind of dial it back from the juiced baseballs.
the
from,
harder
from
ball
last
to
year.
more of a
So softer ball,
Yeah.
or maybe not as tightly wound.
Yeah.
I think.
So
that's
Something to do
it.
with the stitches and
the
yeah.
stitching. So you're kind of like you're asking.
Keep it in play.
You're balancing out the pitching
Yeah.
is.
Couldn't you?
in
I
need
was
of
wondering,
help.
couldn't you change the stitching so that the pitchers can get more
Grip,
control and more spin and
Yeah.
more movement on a ball
Yeah.
just by raising or lowering?
That's
the
kind of
stick?
what
I
they're
don't know how
going
that
towards, I
works.
think. Something like that.
Yeah. So it's not just I'm going to make the hitter not be able to hit as hard, but I'm going to let the pitcher throw a nastier pitch.
Yeah.
But, so to your point, you brought him up a couple times. Wander Franco is the number one prospect. Everyone's basically saying can't miss on this guy. Right?
Yeah. Not
Well-
only that, he was. Did I write it down? He was number 4 the year before.
Yeah. So
And he was
4,
96
1,
the year
1.
before that.
Yeah. Never
How
not been
old
in the
is he?
top 100.
Oh no, I got
He's
it.
tw-
19.
he's 20,
He's
19?
No, he's going to
I think
turn
he just-
20 on March
yeah.
1st.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he's in a good system
Whereas
too.
number 2 is Adley Rushman, the catcher for the Orioles. who's
Hard no on
20
him.
Complete
23.
opposite.
24.
Bad market, older catcher.
Older
Catcher. Look, here's my
played college. Whereas
here's my
Franco,
stand on catchers and the card hobby.
Yep.
Don't buy them.
Yeah,
Tell me the last really, really marketable catcher.
Mike Piazza.
Yachty.
Yachty. Who else?
Piazza.
Nope.
Maurer. But it's, even if you
He
think
was
about
never
that in
that
scale
hot, and
to
he's not hot now, even though he's a Hall of Famer.
Even yeah.
Yeah, Ivan Rodriguez wasn't that hot.
Ivan Rodriguez never
I'm thinking
sold.
back to more of the guys in the 80s and 90s. Now,
Carlton Fifth did some clutches,
now,
but no.
now Yogi Berra. and
Okay, all right, there you go.
Johnny
we got
Bench.
One
Johnny
guy.
Bench.
Johnny Bench is probably the last marketable
You can
guy,
count it on
and
one
Yachty's
hand
the
of-
only other one.
No, I'm gonna override and say Buster Posey of the last
Okay,
10 years
yeah.
is the most marketable. Now, partly because they had a lot of
They
success.
had
Not
crazy
hobby-wise,
teams.
though.
Yeah.
No, his stuff sold really well. For
It
him.
sold really well when
Yeah.
they won the World Series a couple years,
Yeah.
but then it regressed immediately back.
Yeah,
This
but
is
I
not
think
a
that's true
long-term-
of baseball. All guys regress if their teams.
No, right, but
like
catchers
Madison
are so
Bumgarner regressed.
well. So
in the
there's two
hobby.
things with catchers. One, the chances that they're going to make it is extremely low,
Yep.
and then if they do make it, the chances they're going to be incredibly popular with clutches is really low.
Well, that's the thing too is they play one position comparatively to like an outfielder.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
put them at 3 or a shortstop and go to second.
Well, and they got to
You know.
sit, right? I mean, you can't
Yeah.
catch every
You
game
can't
of the
catch-
week,
Yeah.
and so they don't
They
get
don't
as
get
many
the
at
numbers.
bats. They
The
don't get the
numbers,
numbers,
yeah.
So then,
and it's
what,
just
what
it's
are
a hard
your-
no on catches.
What are your guys' thought on the number 3, Spencer Torkelson, which is the
Same thing, and he's in a bad market.
first and third?
But
Yeah,
here's the thing
market.
about him: he's
21.
much more of an Alonso
Yeah,
type.
he had
He's
the
gonna hit
most
home runs.
He's like
crazy.
similar to Bonds in
I mean,
home runs in college. Type
Yeah,
deal.
so he has the flip. He has the hit 60,
Yeah.
power 80, right?
Yeah.
And people are looking at him as Paul Goldschmidt.
Goldschmidt.
But
Yeah.
Goldschmidt's not all that marketable because he's
Yeah.
on that bad team.
But yeah,
And he's first baseman. So,
So-
first baseman, you hit 280, 45 home runs,
that's what you're
and
supposed
90
to do.
RBI, and you're like, who cares?
yeah.
He's the first baseman.
So what about Bobby Witt Jr.? Yeah, he's
That's an
actually-
interesting one. I
He's a
think
better
that's it.
potential, right?
That's interesting because
He's
he's
a
short,
very
younger.
balanced
Younger, 20.
prospect.
He's
Yeah.
flashy. He's on a bad team though. It's
So
just
so they have on
things.
I'm looking at MLB prospects right now, and they have an ETA of him
Yeah.
being called
This
up.
year, probably, right?
It says 22 actually,
Yeah, okay.
which is same with Julio Rodriguez. So they
Yeah.
think Kellenic will be up, but not
Yeah.
Rodriguez. Is that
Yeah.
even though
Kellen's a
they're-
little bit older. I think he's
Well, here's the
more-
other thing, too.
Yeah,
Well,
he's a
here's the
year
other thing
older.
about Wander, because we're going back to Wander. Wander might very well break camp
with at 19? Wow.
at 20. It March 1st.
Well, he'll be
He'll be
start
very
at-
young.
Who's,
20.
who's their shortstop? Do you even know the race? Yeah, no.
That might be a good case for why he's going to break camp.
Or even their second baseman.
which,
who
by
do
the
you
way-
even know?
Well, Brandon Lowe plays second.
Yeah, low.
Yeah.
So do we
Second,
see?
right?
Hey, so do we see Royce Lewis this year?
No, I didn't put much thought into it.
Kirilloff
Not
only.
with Simmons getting signed.
Yeah,
Polanco,
he's-
Arise.
I think Krylov and Larnach will see. I think we see both. of them.
Krylov will probably.
Kirilloff's going to break at start. No, he's the starter. I mean, he's the starter.
Yeah,
right
I
field.
think Krylov can be a big.
So
hit
Kepler will
guy.
be in left, Buxton, and then Kirilloff.
Right. And I think Larnach getting called up because someone's gonna get hurt.
So do you think the Twins? Man, I don't know. Yeah.
They're
Still,
ranked as
they
a
get
top
outfield
five,
no matter
top 5, 6, 7 team. Twins.
Yep.
I don't see that. I think I've seen that where
think?
finally we're getting some love in the projection. That scares me because usually they're like, we're in 4th place. I'm like, we're gonna win the division.
Wait. Well, the
This year
question,
I'm like,
the
nah.
question's going to come down to pitching. I think we are
Well,
going to have a potent.
I
lineup.
saw a bunch of our signings. There's not a lot of big names.
Yeah, but a lot of our big name signings in the past, like when we signed the pitcher from the Angels. Wow, my mind just went blank on him. The guy who was out 55 games, we gave him $40 million or whatever.
Santana.
Irvin Santana. Like usually
He was
when we
pitching
make
very
these
well.
big signings, they're guys who are later in their career. So
I
like,
mean-
the hope is actually like
Well, the thing is,
I mean,
The juice was helping him. Like, he was pitching very well.
the defense was an issue.
Yeah.
Now they got Gold Glover. They got Cruz back. Colome
Right.
has been really underrated and good. Donaldson might play a full year.
that'd
You
be
know,
huge.
I mean,
That-
we missed Donaldson the whole year. pretty
injuries
much,
obviously,
so-
and it was such a weird season with COVID and stuff. So
Yeah.
for them to actually get a full spring training
Yeah.
and get a full season, and it'll be interesting. Are there
Well-
going to be fans in the stands?
Yeah,
Well,
there's
the
probably
Saint,
gonna be some,
the
right?
Saints are gonna have people, so I don't see
Yeah.
the Twin at
The
some
Twins will have a
point,
measure of.
and they have a big,
I
way
want to do
bigger
4th of July game.
So we'll have to do
Yeah,
it. We should.
right.
We'll do a live podcast.
from the game.
I'm going to tell you a guy
just
that
set up
I'm
in the
hard
stand.
sell on.
Okay.
Randy Rosarino.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. He actually cracked the top 100 players.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
He's 100.
Because here's the thing. Look. Here, let's be honest
is
about
interesting.
Rosarino. And I sold an immaculate.
Yeah.
That immaculate auto. I sold that today. I shipped it today. Man, I sold it yesterday. He's 26, which, by the way, we said 27
Yeah.
breakout year, so it's not that he's
Yeah.
over that, right? But here's what happened. He was never a good prospect. No one ever
Yeah.
saw him as a good prospect. He got almost no at-bats in the regular season. He got called up at the last second.
Yeah.
He had a 3-week run, and lots of guys have good 3 weeks. It just happened to be he was playing in the playoffs when he had it.
Right.
And the way his values are, and I told a customer this today about him. I said, he might be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know. Like
Right.
I'll admit that all day long. I don't know, but I'm a hard sell.
Right.
What's the chances he repeats what he did? I mean, he
Right.
It's hard to see
It's not gonna-
upside, right? It's hard.
Well,
to
not
see.
only that, but like who am I thinking of? Alan Craig? Does that sound right? Cardinals like hit those home runs in the World Series.
David Freese.
Freeze, yeah.
he's-
So Freeze is a World Series
Hero.
hero in St. Louis. Guys don't sell for anything.
Nobody even knows.
We're talking about 2 World Series in a row. He did spectacular things.
Insane
He
things.
doesn't sell. You know, so Rosarino is not a guy. He's a guy I'm selling. Same with Jason Dominguez. Jason Dominguez for a different reason. He might very well be legit,
But it's.
but we're not going to see him for 3 years.
The odds against him are just.
But we're not going to see him for 3 years.
Yeah.
So you might as well sell now.
See
And then
what
if you're a
happens.
believer, reacquire in 1 year or 2 years.
Yeah.
And his prices are going to be lower. I mean, the chances that his prices are higher than it is now, 2 years from now, is very small.
Right.
Very small. Before he made it in.
Can I ask you about your thoughts on a guy?
Sure.
And this is for Evan too. Is Christian Pache, 22, Atlanta
Yeah.
Braves, number 12th overall outfielder. There's been a lot of talk about him.
I've been following Pache for 3 years now. I've been picking
I
up
mean,
his
his
cards.
first was in 2016, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, okay, so here's the thing I was going to bring this up earlier. Baseball's a little different than all the other sports, even basketball, where they go high school or pros.
yeah,
In baseball, you literally can get signed at 15.
right. Especially if you're international.
Yeah, if you're international, right? And then I think even
Can you in the
yeah,
US?
you can, but they don't.
They just
because if
don't.
you're
They
an
let 'em play
American,
high
your
school,
your
yeah.
mom and dad ain't gonna let you.
Yeah, they're
do that. but
right.
if the American kids play for the USA team. They play
Yep.
for the 1500 team, the
Yep.
1600 team. And so that's the thing is like people go, oh yeah, he had a first Bowman 5 years ago. He must be so old. It's like yeah, he's 20. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So you have to have so much more patience, and only like the really smart people can can participate in
No,
that.
his last year. I mean, he literally will he have a rookie? He won't have a rookie in Series 1, though, right?
No, he
Yeah,
does.
Series
That's
one.
his rookie.
Oh, he does.
That's
Okay,
his RC card.
so he's probably one of the better.
By the way, I had listed a bunch of Pache First Bowman Chrome
Sold it,
and Mojos, dude. And I raised the price on them, but not enough. By the time they sold, they were going like triple what I had them.
He reminds me a lot of Buxton, though. He's like a fielder,
Yeah.
decent batting
His
average.
hit skill's not great.
Not a lot of home runs.
Not a lot of power. He's
21
more-
home runs in 461 games. You know,
Oh, I do have a guy. I gotta find him.
he reminds me of Andrew Jones, and he's on the Braves, so that's kind of funny.
Now with this guy Andrew
Andrew Jones
Vaughn.
not so
Yeah.
bad.
Hey, this guy Andrew Vaughn for the White Sox, number 14th overall, 22. There's been a lot of hype around him, and obviously the White Sox are.
He's third pick.
The White Sox are supposed to be the 4th best team in baseball. I mean,
Yeah.
and they got a
but
lot of young guys. They're going to get a lot of primetime games.
He he has the MVP at first base, so Abreu. So
Yeah, and Abreu,
Where is he
man,
gonna
Abreu
play,
should be
right?
selling for more, right?
yeah,
Well, but the nice thing in the American League is you do have the DH, so I
Yeah.
don't know if they
that's true. You could bump in
Abreu a little more. Or, I don't know who they were regularly DHing
I don't
in
remember
Chicago,
either.
but that opens. And
Probably
actually,
some
the
random person,
DH,
yeah.
the whole idea of the DH really gives an opportunity for a lot of guys' careers to be extended
Yeah.
in a way that, like,
Yeah.
you know, you look back at guys who literally their second, like Molitor, his second half of his career
Oh,
was
right.
all
Right.
as a DH.
Frank
so
Thomas.
Yeah.
Frank Thomas, Ortiz obviously would never have been playing in the National
Oh,
League.
no.
And so
Nelson
you have-
Cruz is another one too. He
Nelson
re-signed
Cruz
with the
is-
Twins right after they announced
Yeah.
there was no NLDH. He went right
Let's do
back
it.
to us.
So that's a huge benefit for these
Yeah.
guys who hit for power. Who yeah.
I got 3 more players to bring up these are just 3 players that I really like, and they're further down on the top 100 list. The bottom quarter maybe. Bottom half. Josh Jung, number 63. Hitting 60, power 60. People refer to him. You'll see this every once in a while. They refer to him as an advanced bat. That just
Yeah.
means like their approach to hitting is advanced, not
Yep.
just raw skill.
Like I would guess Mauer would have been a really high.
Yeah, he
advanced
would have
bat,
been
right?
advanced
Yeah,
bat.
yeah.
Like it's just like he understands how to hit.
Yep.
Jazz Chisholm, who got called up last year,
Yep.
right? Didn't
Yeah,
get
he
called
played
up?
for the Marlins a little
So
bit.
is he in Series 1? Maybe in
No,
Series
he's
2.
not in
So it might be Series 2 then if he got called up. He's just a guy I really like. His hit skill is not great, but I don't know. I got a feeling about him. I don't have
He's a good fielder. He's a really good fielder. Speed
right.
too,
No,
he's
keep him in the
fast.
lineup, but he has to
Yeah.
hit in order to be hobby
He's on an
relevant.
odd team too with the Marlins. Kind of.
And the last one is this is a guy who kind of hits what I was talking about. Bryce Terang.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. For
He
the
is-
Brewers, right?
Hit 60, power 40. But this is what I'm talking about is he's going to be top of the lineup kind of guy. He plays second base, so he could make these all-star teams just because of his position. And because his hit skill is more advanced than his power skill, he might actually hit more home runs because he's going to make more contact.
Yeah, I got.
And so I'm a big Bryce Terang fan.
Yeah, I got a guy too, Xavier Edwards. He got traded in the Tommy Pham trade from the Padres to the Rays.
Okay.
So like the number 1 Rays, Rays had the best system pretty much for him. He's never hit under 300 in his minor league career in 3 years.
Nice.
So he's on the
He wasn't
Rays-
on my radar at all.
He's on the Rays, which is like probably the best farm system. They're like, build guys up, trade them when they're about to get expensive.
Yeah,
Take-
no
Yeah,
doubt.
not pay him. Let the
Yeah,
Yankees pay him.
he's
Right,
a second baseman, so
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
he's only 19, 85 in the top 100. You can get his Bowman Chrome first for $1. I mean,
Oh, there
so
you go.
can't really go wrong there.
Can't go wrong. Just
He's one of
stack
those
them
guys
up.
with the 80 or not
So
80.
he's the
but
guy. He's the guy where you
high
go to the
average.
National,
Yeah,
go over to that dime guy
yeah,
who has all the Bowman,
yeah.
and fish out all of his
Yep.
first Bowman.
Yeah, he's got like the 70 average, 50 power.
Oh, nice.
He's fast.
I want to tell you a guy I was thinking of, but now I'm concerned about him because of a move that was made. And the move that was made is literally, I don't know if you guys know this, my absolute favorite player in baseball. Do you know who it is?
Paul Molitor.
No, current,
I don't know.
Thank
I
you.
am like,
current player.
oh,
And it directly affects
Tom
this guy.
Brady.
Yes, Tom Brady.
Baseball episode.
Okay,
Tom
so
Brady.
I'll give you a
The
clue.
GOAT.
So this prospect, I liked him a lot. Nolan Gorman. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah. Cardinals.
Cardinals. Problem is he plays third base, and you know
who'd
who they just picked up.
Yeah.
Oh,
My favorite
Arenado.
player in baseball, Nolan Arenado. I think Nolan Arenado
It'd be
is, if
interesting.
defense was the number 1 seller of cards, he'd be better than Trout. He is that good
Well,
defensively.
Trout's a very good defensive player.
No, Nolan Arenado.
At the hot
If you
corner,
ever
you
want to
gotta see
watch
him.
literally
I mean,
10 minutes of the best highlights you'll ever see from a third baseman, it's Nolan Arenado. And I'm curious as to if he's going to get more love not playing in Colorado and hitting a bunch of home runs. I mean, the guy's he's won 5 Silver Sluggers. I mean, the guy's
he could put all those myths to rest about the
Yeah.
Colorado Stadium.
which is awesome, and they're going to be seems like a better team. But now I don't know how.
I don't know.
This guy's prospect
The
fits
Cardinals.
They got Goldschmidt too.
I'm curious what you think of. And St. Louis is a baseball town.
Yep.
Serious.
I mean,
fans.
baseball is what's up, right?
Yep.
But it seems like when players go to St. Louis, they don't
They
sell.
die. Their
What
careers
is
go
the
to-
deal
Goldschmidt,
in
too.
cards?
Yeah.
Goldschmidt
don't
went
think
there,
they're
like, oh,
ever-
he's finally going to sell
They
now.
just haven't been good enough since they won the World Series. The pitching isn't there. It's just
So you think it's just related to the team performance?
Well, because
Yeah.
I mean, like Stan Musial sells.
Well, another thing,
Guys
too,
have, that have
yeah.
played there in the past. That
Well,
But any town with a baseball
I think they have
town
really
is
big
St. Louis.
St. Louis
they have
is-
really big expectations every year.
now they
too.
don't.
Until
now-
they underperform,
Well, now they
then-
don't have a football team, so I don't know
Yeah.
how that affects the fan bases.
I keep
collecting.
waiting for Goldschmidt and all those guys to take
Maybe,
off in the
yeah,
hobby.
it's-
They just don't. I don't understand it.
But don't you think part of it is as we talk about baseball at more in depth than we've ever talked about on this podcast, the average baseball guy, I'll say this much: what drives Mike Trout's numbers is not just the crazy baseball fanatics; it's his name recognition in the
Yeah.
sports card hobby. Where
Yeah.
the guy who collects basketball and football goes, "If I'm going to buy a baseball card, I'm buying this guy Trout because
Right.
he's the clear number one."
Yeah.
And they don't even appreciate Goldschmidt and Joey Votto, right? Or do I mean?
Well, I don't take the time to look at the
So it's like, do you
So
think
you're
that's part of it
arguing
is-
that there's not enough brand names
There's-
in
Yeah.
baseball,
There's
and
not enough
only
brand
the
names.
nerds
And
know
only
what they're
so
looking
the
at.
nerds understand, appreciate like Terang or even like Keston Hira and some of these
Right.
guys who are really good players, but they're in small markets, and he's never gonna. In other words, Keston Hira is never gonna be collected
So it's
by a
interesting.
non-baseball player.
What's
Or
interesting
collector,
is
I mean,
Herrera plays for the Brewers, which are in Milwaukee.
Yep,
That hurts them.
for sure.
Gianna plays for the Bucks, who are in Milwaukee, and he's one of the top sellers.
Exactly.
So that's interesting.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like the market, in order to crack the elite baseball, you to be known outside of just baseball
Right.
circles, you have to be the number one guy,
I
and that's
think
about
that's
it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like,
I think that's
Another
interesting.
thing too is with basketball compared to baseball is just the number of people.
yeah,
Giannis is on the court
yes.
the whole game. Hira's half the time.
Yes.
Well,
you have to
that
wait. You have to wait 30 minutes to see him hit
Well,
one
that
at
and if you look
bat.
at and this is true for basketball, and basketball specifically, is there are only really 8 guys that play the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And so 1 out of 8 is the star, whereas
Yeah.
in baseball, you have 4 stars on
Well,
the
not
team.
only that, I thought the other day when I saw Fernando Tatis,
Out of 25.
when I saw Fernando Tatis on a Gatorade commercial, I'm like, this is the first time I've seen a
Yeah.
baseball player
Yeah.
in a commercial forever.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Mike Trout on a commercial?
No.
You see Aaron Rodgers, you see Patrick Mahomes, you see LeBron, you
mean,
don't see them. They don't.
Griffey,
What does that tell you?
Jeter.
That tells you that the market of
Yeah.
the marketing world of their products doesn't see the value in a baseball player
Yeah,
promoting
I'm
it,
trying
right?
to think who's the more
Comparatively.
recent guy. Griffey and Jeter had a lot of advertising.
Nike did both those guys,
I
right?
think who was more modern.
Does
I mean,
Jordan
Trout, you're
have-
not wrong. Trout is not.
Does Jordan even have a baseball guy under his brand? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Jeter was the last one I know was Jumpman Jeter stuff was
Right.
the thing.
Yeah, what
wow,
other
it's interesting.
baseball guys? I mean, I don't see
Bo
Trout.
Jackson.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I'm
you
not
had
going
some
in the
guys.
90s,
No,
I mean-
you did have them.
Pujols.
Yep,
you
did
see
have them.
Pujols on commercials. Pujols, Cabrera.
No,
You don't
no.
see. Yeah, I mean, Yachty. I mean,
And
nobody.
you probably
really.
couldn't stop a person on the street.
Actually,
in
you
New
know what?
York.
Yachty might be the
Kershaw. You
argument
see
for St.
Kershaw
Louis.
on. I haven't seen him on
No,
really
I-
anything.
But Yachty might be the argument for St. Louis. Yachty sells even though his numbers aren't
Yeah.
Yachty. I mean, they
Yeah, but-
really appreciate.
Well, he's like the
defense.
best catcher
He-
in terms
yeah,
of in
yeah.
the.
But if
As
you
far-
think
as far
about
as catches
LA,
go, he's there.
LA, you should be seeing Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe you
Right.
do in LA and just not national.
I've seen Judge on some commercials
Judge.
actually. Now that I
Judge,
think about it,
yeah.
when he had that crazy season
Judge-
with 50
Judge is
whatever
a
home
legit-
runs, and
Yep.
national advertising.
And to be honest, I think Bellinger's probably a better player.
Yeah.
And I think he's a buy, don't you? Potential
Yeah.
buys. I mean, I have some value buys. I think another guy that's a buy is George Springer. We've talked a little
Yep.
bit about him. Arenado, I really like.
I really think the Blue Jays are really going to
Well, I think
come out.
Springer's a big one of those. Like, can he get the monkey off his back of being in it with Houston during the cheating? If he
Right.
performs this year, then it's kind of like.
And the color changed, so I don't remember.
Yeah.
He was on what team? I don't remember. He's a
He's
blue guy now. Not an orange guy.
Yeah.
How about I was blown away by this. Last year's War Leaders number 10 was Mike Yastrzemski.
Yeah.
I heard a
He
lot about him,
way
yeah, for the
overplayed.
Giants, yeah.
He is a guy with no pedigree, zero pedigree.
Yeah.
Right.
He's one of
Zero
those guys that
pedigree.
went from
He wasn't a
0
prospect.
to.
He was just
Yeah.
like
Yeah, once
guy.
he just literally, but it's
He just
Yeah.
kept
it's
hitting.
Carl Yastrzemski's grandkid,
Yeah.
which is interesting, and he literally just went from.
But he was a
nothing to-
nobody.
and
Yeah.
he was in the majors, and all of a sudden, like,
Right. I'll put it this way. He
Yeah.
probably didn't crack the top 400.
no, I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, and he had like a really good year, right?
That's
That
one
can
of,
absolutely happen.
that's one of those things where you go to Market Movers and you see plus 500%, and it's
Right.
$10, and you're like, oh,
Right.
well, he was $1 before,
Yeah,
$2.
he's-
Yeah, it's
he's
one of
a
those
buck.
type of ones.
Nice
so
five
the
bucks, yeah.
percentage isn't the right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, if
indicator.
you're holding on to something out of 10, an auto, then
Yeah, you can get
know,
up
you
there.
do that. But
Move him.
if you're holding base top, not working. Do you want to talk about the book a little bit? Then how are we doing?
We're at 139, 140.
All right. This is one of the latest
We
podcasts.
could kick it off next time. I mean, I feel like we gave.
I'd like to talk about
wanna
it.
talk about
And
it?
then, so here's the thing: we're gonna talk about a book that I've been following. This guy, his name's Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist. He wrote a book called 12 Rules for Life. I bought it.
The Antidote to Chaos.
Right. I bought it when it first came out. And the first chapter is stand up straight with your shoulders back. This is a very self-help type book. And I swear, I read the chapter, and the next morning, my back was so messed up, and it was messed up for over 2 years. I couldn't stand up longer than like 20 minutes. And I had to go through a bunch of physical therapy. So I'm a little scared reading the book, right? If I throw my back out, then Jordan Peterson owes me some money. But I want to talk about the book with
Yeah,
somebody. So
yeah.
I bought Clint a copy and asked him if he would like talk about it
And
with
let
me.
me put a little caveat in here before we start on this. To those of you guys who are listening, like, one of the things that changed my perspective life as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, is when I read an article about a day in the life of Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
So the owner of the Mavericks, Shark Tank, entrepreneur. He literally spends, and I know you think like the busier you get, the less time you have to read. Like, the guy literally spends 3 hours a day reading and learning. And I think
Yeah.
learning, the process of learning is like this constant, it's this expression of humility where the more, it's not like the more you learn, the more you think you know, you actually realize how little you do. Does that
Right,
make sense? Like,
right.
and that's actually a super helpful mindset, character trait to like
Yeah, a
build. And
sign of
so
intelligence is that you know nothing.
you know, and the more you realize you know how much other people know more than you, the
Right.
more you have this desire not to like prove them wrong, but it's like, I want to learn, I want to be a learner, right? Like,
And you
learning
know
is-
not to go into problems thinking that you have the answer.
Absolutely, and that's a super helpful. And so, like, actually, when you brought this up, I was like, "That's awesome! I want to read more."
Right.
The books I've been reading recently have been either like theological, Bible stuff,
Right.
or like poker. I've been really studying,
Yeah.
or like investing.
Very
this
technical.
Is like, and this is much more like self-awareness, self-help. It's
Right.
under the self-help category.
Now, here's the
It's-
thing.
yeah.
Like, I've never done a book club before, so I have no idea how to do this. But I just pulled out different quotes that I thought were interesting that I just want to talk to somebody about.
Yeah.
So when you read it by yourself, you kind of want to have a conversation with
So it
somebody.
might encourage somebody to actually pick up the book.
Yeah,
It's good.
and you know, he's a guy I listen to a lot on YouTube while I'm listening and while I'm working. So I guess I'll just kind of go down like the little bits and pieces I got from the first chapter.
Yeah.
Because one of the reasons why I thought it would be good to talk about it on podcast is like
Yeah.
I saw a lot of ways this was helpful in business.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but some of it. And I thought, well, might as well if we're going to talk about it anyway. He starts off by talking about that there's an establishment of a pecking order
Yes.
within
lobsters.
lobsters, dogs, all sorts of animals have these, and so do humans. But he refers to understanding who you are within that pecking order.
Yeah.
Gary Vee actually talks about that when he's talking about understanding who you are. He goes,
Where
well,
you fit, yeah.
all of you guys think that you're the CEO. and you're operating on that standpoint that you're the man. And he said, you really got to look at yourself and go, are you really the man or are you number 4? And the guy who is number 4 and understands he's not number 1, but he is number 4, or he's number 17, is going to have a much better time reaching his potential and then being very successful at that.
Right.
Because being a successful number 17 is a lot better than being a failure at number 1.
But I think also one of the takeaways I took from this chapter was, if you're the number 4 and you're honest about it, that's actually the way you would move forward to becoming a number 3. Or is that
well, you could hit number 3, but then would you do well at that?
Well, there's certain traits that need to be learned in order to be successful. Like, one of the things I think he's pushing is, like, one of the reasons people lack success is not because they lack opportunity, it's because they lack the characteristics that bring success, and you can cultivate those long before you've been given a position. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, you actually...
Well, I'll tell you something right now. I'm like a number 2 or 3 or 4. I am not a number 1.
Right.
Because of my disability, I've been forced to make myself a number 1 by opening the shop.
Yep.
And becoming the guy to do it. That's not how I'm wired. I'm much more wired to be a 2 or a 3.
Sure.
Where I work closely with the number 1, and I tell him why he's wrong about all this stuff.
And
I'm like, you're wrong. We got to do this, and I convince the number 1 to make the decision.
And you're like the mirror for him to see the blind spot.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's really where my talent actually lies. It's just, so sometimes you do have to go up because no one's going to give you that opportunity.
Exactly.
And so I've had to learn a lot.
Well, and I think the other thing I've noticed is the more I've surrounded myself with people that are way further ahead in all those areas, the more I actually have an accurate understanding of what it would take to actually do number 1. And sometimes you go, you know what? I don't even want that responsibility. Like, when I read Mark Cuban's thing, and he literally has to read. He doesn't read all of them. He has people vet his emails.
Right.
He has to read so many emails that it's like, do you realize, like, some people look at his life like, oh, that's awesome, Shark. If I just, do you have any idea of the level of responsibility this man has?
Well,
like,
I say this all the time. People talk about, like, man, it would be awesome to be Tom Brady. I'm like, I don't want to be Tom Brady. I want to be like Martin Gramatica. Like, I'm a good kicker. Everybody respects me at what I do. I make $3 million a year, and nobody bothers me when I go to the mall.
And when I walk down the street, no one cares, right?
Right, well, who cares?
Back to the point about baseball. One of the benefits of being a baseball player is a lot of these guys are making money, and guess what? No one in the public eye knows who
we talked about Josh Donaldson going into a card shop.
Literally.
And 2 people didn't know who he was.
A guy who sells baseball cards didn't even know who he was.
Right.
Now, he might have been a little incognito.
No, but that might be an insight to why I'm probably a 2 or a 3. I mean, nobody knows who 3... people know who number 2 at Berkshire Hathaway is, but not number 3.
Yep.
I mean, not unless you're really into it. So that's one of the things. I do think it's smart to go, hey, who am I?
Yeah.
Where do I fit? This wasn't in the book, but there's a philosopher. I refer to him as a philosopher. Mm-hmm. He's an economist. His name is Thomas Sowell. But he's far more of a moralist, or not a moralist, a philosopher. He uses economics to try to make proper social policy.
Yep.
But he talks a lot about the disparities in success of black students at Ivy League schools.
Yep.
And what he refers to is, he says, well, there's probably due to quotas at these schools trying to force themselves to be more diverse. Mm-hmm. There are all these black students who are getting accepted into Yale and Harvard and all these schools, and even though they have like an SAT score that's in the top like 90th percentile of the country, so we're not talking about dumb people getting to Harvard. We're talking about really like smarter than me and you put together people. But at MIT or Harvard, it's the 98th percentile they go there, and so they're in the bottom 10% of Harvard. And one of the things Sowell says is like, there's no prestige when you fail out of Harvard.
Right.
And so it's doing people a disservice by shooting to a point where they really shouldn't be, where they could have gone to Duke and been cum laude and graduated and did very well.
interesting
Instead, now
is-
they're a loser, right?
literally
Because
got-
I had to drop out because I couldn't make it. Not because I wanted to drop out, but because I couldn't make it. Well, but you could have made it if you would have went to Duke,
Well,
which is a great school.
I'll connect this in a real practical way. When I was being recruited in high school to play football, I had opportunities to go Division 1, 2, or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had some guys who had played and some family friends say, honestly, if you can go Division 1, play Division 2.
Yeah.
You're going to be more successful. You're going to have more fun. You're going to, you know what I mean? And if you can play Division 2 barely, or you could play it, play Division 3. And actually,
Right.
in other words, exactly what you're saying. Play a level down and be better at it.
Right.
Now, if you're like the elite of the elite Division 1, then play
Oh,
Division
right,
1.
right.
But if you're like, now I think a lot of guys like the challenge of like, good for
Oh,
Adam
absolutely.
Thielen to
Absolutely.
barely, walk on Division 2, be successful, and then actually over it.
But he didn't try to walk. But he didn't try to walk on at Notre Dame either. He
No, he
walked
didn't
on at
walk on at Notre
Mankato.
Dame. Yeah.
Right, that's a
Right.
different thing. He understood where he was at, but then he performed up.
But he did try out and essentially walk on undrafted for the Vikings,
Yeah.
and then you don't see that too often. So like part of it is like you're not telling people to not shoot high, but you're also
Right.
saying be realistic in your expectations because you're going to be less disappointed, right?
Right.
When
One of
you're-
the things I always thought was like, you know, what would be great because playing Division I football for like Florida State is a big deal,
For sure.
and it's like you played for UMD,
Yep.
and
Division 2.
that's that's a very good school, but that's not Florida State,
Not even
right?
close.
And but I was thinking like if I was a really good like 3-star prospect,
Yeah.
but it was like for some whatever reason it was like there's zero chance of getting the NFL.
Yep.
I would Division 3 it up all day long.
Yeah.
And just destroy
Now,
everybody.
now, there's something about like facing the challenge of like. So I got to play against a guy every week at UMD who ended up playing in the NFL for a few years, and
nice.
so like knowing the level of skill he had. Now I was not nearly as successful, having transferred then and finished at a Division III school. Like, I mean, I'll say this much: there's benefits to being in an atmosphere where you are the small fish in the big pond.
Right.
And there's a different benefit to being the bigger. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's something in
Yeah.
your development that benefits from each. I think
Now,
actually,
I don't know if this comes up later in the book here, but Jordan Peterson talks about that in a YouTube video that I was
Yeah.
listening to, where he talked about if people are constantly failing,
Mhm.
they're not aiming low enough,
Sure.
right? Because and
So
people
building
interviewers
success is
always are
confidence,
like,
yeah.
what do you mean aim low? No one ever tells you to aim low.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll tell you something directly related with that and my business.
Yeah.
I aim so low
Yeah.
because I need, and this is going to come up later in this chapter,
Yep.
is I had suffered a number of losses in a row,
Yep.
career-wise, particularly just loss after loss after loss. And when I finally told my wife that I was going to take $500 and go to the fish shop, I was buying anything, and it didn't matter how much money I made on the item, as long as I made money.
Right.
So if I put 20 minutes into an item and I made $1, that was a success.
Right.
And that started me down that path. So that's
Yes.
really why I went high volume, low dollar.
Success
I didn't want to wait
compounds
for
more
that
success.
big
Yes.
thing to sell. If I
Yep.
had to wait 2 months for that big thing to
Yep.
sell, I wasn't going to get a reward.
Yep. Success breeds success. In
Right.
other words.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when I sold that thing and I made $3, I won.
Right.
I had a win. That's a win under my belt.
For sure.
So that's one of those really interesting things is like if you're like, oh, I'm going to be the greatest ever, and it's just like, oh, no one's giving me a chance, stuff, you're probably not aiming low enough.
So this reminds me of something in business and a bunch of areas. Have you heard of SMART goals?
Yeah.
So one of the things in SMART, it stands for, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and timely. I can't remember what the S is. What's the first one? So realistic, setting realistic goals that you can actually meet, keep you actually
Right.
setting goals.
Right.
Versus,
So now you set a higher goal for yourself.
and so like you're saying, when I set a goal, like let's say someone comes and goes, my goal is to get in shape. It's like, well,
Yeah, what
it's
does that
not,
mean?
It's not timely. It's not realistic. It's not obtainable. Whereas if I say like
not
my
specific.
goal, it's not specific. Thank you. The
Yeah.
S is specific.
Yeah.
So my goal is I want to work out 2 days a week for 15 minutes a day.
Right.
Okay, if I was like I'm gonna work out 7 days a week for 2 hours. Like,
Right,
it's
right.
not real. That's never going to happen. And then
Well,
what's going to happen
you're
is
20 minutes into the first session, like, I'm done.
and then it's going to discourage me from ever
Well,
trying
you
again.
just failed.
Exactly.
It, right?
You just failed.
And so one of the other interesting things, so he's talking about lobsters and talking about other animals when they try to establish that hierarchy, and they're and it's mainly it's dominance. So by attaining higher dominance, you get your choice of better mates,
Yep.
which is beneficial for the society of lobsters because the offspring are stronger and more whatever, right? But what it talked a lot about was when you're engaged in that battle for that dominance,
Yeah.
you don't want to do that to a point where, let's say you're the leader.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to engage with the number 2 to a point where you defeat the number 2, but you become very damaged in the fight.
Right.
And you see that a lot in business.
Yeah.
Now, one of the weird things about me and you is we're competitors in this market. Same with Papa Hawks. I'm a card
Sure.
shop in Twin Cities market,
Yeah.
right? But we also understand like the way card shops, physical card shops work is
Yeah.
we all kind of have our own territory.
Right.
No one's really skipping 3 card shops to go to a 4th one to
Right.
buy a box of cards for same price, you know, or even if it's $5 cheaper, you're probably not going to make that trip. But in the old days in cars, the shop owners hated each other.
Which to me,
I never understood it.
and the other reason I don't understand is like, there's two things on like the spiritual front that I won't even address that, but on just the economic front, there's so many more people in the Twin Cities than there are card shops. In other words, like there's enough
But
population.
understand, we're talking back in the day when there were 3 card shops.
But understand, there's enough population in this city, from what I saw at that show
Yeah.
on Saturday, to support 30 card shops.
But I would
So-
argue this though. I think what could have been very well happening was a customer would go into a shop, and that shop owner would badmouth 3 or 4 other shops. That guy's a thief. That
I
guy's
have
a whatever.
nothing but good to say. By the way,
And then-
I've made a vow in my own
Yeah.
heart, even if I actually had an issue with you, John,
Yeah.
because you were no, I'm just kidding. We don't have an issue.
There's plenty of
But if I
issues.
did, first of all, it's very bad etiquette professionally to discuss that with a customer. Like that's just
No,
not,
right.
that's
No,
just
but
not
here's the
appropriate.
theory.
Yeah.
It's like you're at war. You're in a battle.
Yeah, it's-
And so they think I'm harming that other person.
To-
But understand what
Yeah.
happens
You're
is
harming yourself.
they go in the second.
Yes.
No, it's not even that. They go in the second shop. That guy starts bad mouthing the other four. They're horrible.
Yeah.
They're evil. They're thieves. You go to third shop, same thing. Fourth shop, same thing. Same thing. All of a sudden, that customer thinks this hobby's horrible.
Horrible.
I don't want to be in this hobby. From what I can tell, is they're all thieves and awful people, right?
Well, and let me ask you this. Let's say you went into 3 of them, and the first 3 all badmouth each other. Then you walked into one, and the guy had nothing but good to say. Who do you
Right.
think?
Oh no, that's true too.
Who would win whose business would you bring? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like
I
the
constantly
allegiance is
am
made.
talking about other shops to customers, and I've talked to you about this, and I
you
think.
embarrass me when I walk in. I'm like, you don't need to say anything about.
Oh,
me.
I actually,
Like, I don't
when he
understand.
walks
Like,
into my,
it's
Clint
like,
walks
why?
into my
It's
store,
like,
I'm like,
why?
oh yeah, man, this is Clint. He owns Absolute Sports Cards. It's a great shop if you ever and
I mean,
Bloomington
I
area,
appreciate
definitely.
that, but
no, but
yeah.
understand what's happening though is that is a selfish move. Because
good, your motive is
the
it. Okay.
overall,
Now I feel
I'm
better.
still being
Just
selfish.
kidding.
If the customer is overall happy in the hobby in this market,
For sure.
that's only going to be a benefit to me.
Absolutely. And you provide things
That's gonna
I
be a
don't.
benefit to you,
Yeah.
too.
Well, and I think we both understand, like, there's things you provide that I don't. That, like, I'm not afraid ever to, like, recommend or refer someone to
Right.
someone else. You know, like, there's been times where I've been like, hey, back in the day, I didn't really buy vintage right away because we just didn't have the capital and we were focused on other things. Like, I'd send them to Rob. Or
Right.
I'd send them to
Well,
Calvin.
the other
or,
thing
you know,
too
it's
is
like-
again, this hobby is very geographic and
Yeah.
its basis. So it's like if there's a customer that lives in Fridley
yeah.
and he wants to buy a box of cards, a couple packs of sleeves, he ain't driving 45 minutes to your shop.
Right.
What I'm saying is, hey, are you in Bloomington? Go check out his shop. It's a cool shop. I always refer to your shop as probably the best selection of singles in the state, which is probably true. You know,
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I can't think of anybody else that would come close to you. Whereas Mark has probably the best selection of memorabilia
Absolutely,
in the state.
yeah.
Rob is a vintage expert.
Yes.
Ultimate has piles of everything everywhere, and it's a fun dig, right?
You're
and-
not going to find records in our store.
Right, and
You're not
I've
gonna
had
find-
I've
yeah.
had my issues with the owner there, but I probably sent 30, 40 people to a shop.
And if I get that stuff that walks in, I send people there to
No.
sell it to them. Too,
Yeah,
'cause I'm not buying
somebody was trying to
records
sell
or-
records the
it's
other
like-
day. I'm like, this is where you gotta go.
Yeah, this is it.
And nobody else knows.
And I think
how to do
working
it.
together and creating that network and those relationships is actually so much. What you have to gain is so much greater than the risk of some weird loss.
But here's
you
the thing.
think
Here's
by
the thing when we're doing it is we're not injuring each other in the fight.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
all remaining extremely strong.
Yeah.
Now, there's still a hierarchy that still occurs, but I wonder if the hierarchy in terms of the card shop is more like I don't think it was on purpose, but we all sort of have a specialization.
Yeah.
And so it's
Everybody
like,
has a strength.
you look at Real Breaks, and Real Breaks is like going into Tiffany's, right?
For sure.
And it's like, not a lot of people go to Tiffany's, but the people that go to Tiffany's want to go to Tiffany's.
Yep.
They don't want to come to my shop.
It's no different than the tree lot that I run. Like, even though Menard sells a Christmas tree and so do I, it's like saying McDonald's serves a burger and so does the gourmet place downtown. Like, yes, it's the same food, but they're different customers' experiences, clientele, the whole deal. And so like every card shop's not the same. And honestly, there's a lot of crossover. Like, there's customers who shop at all of them for different
absolutely.
reasons, and it's great. And I've actually walked into shops before where one of our regular customers is there,
Yeah.
and they're like apologetic, and I'm like, "Are you
No,
kidding me?" Like,
I'm at the shop
I'm like,
right now.
and I'm here buying too. Like you don't need to, like you don't. There's no need for this like false loyalty to. I mean, just yeah.
Right.
It's not like I only go
So
shop
I
at
mean,
Target.
it's
or-
weird because we're talking about a book where there's an established hierarchy and how do you fight, but then
Yep.
at the same time we're talking about why are we constantly trying to fight each other like they did in the 90s.
Right.
And I've really taken that approach where like I much rather have you and Mark and Rob as partners where it's like,
Right.
oh hey, I need some help from you, and then later he goes, oh, I need some help from you. Well, obviously I'm going to help him because I'm going to need something from him eventually.
Right.
Now, even if it's an imbalance, let's say
Yeah.
I help Rob 3 times more than Rob helps me.
Yep.
Well, who cares? I still got helped when I needed it, and then when I helped him, it probably wasn't a big deal.
Right.
That's the other thing too
Yeah.
is a lot of times when you're helping somebody, the help you're giving them is far more important to them than to you. You're like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's not a big deal. And to you, it's a nothing. To them,
Right.
it's a big deal.
Right.
But then when you need something from them, it's probably not a big deal to the other person, but it's a big deal to you.
It's
right?
the idea of like you're making deposits in a bank account, and sometimes you make a bunch of small ones, and then you need to make one big
Yeah.
withdrawal, right? I mean, it's like
Well,
it's
that's
like
not really what I'm arguing. I'm arguing sort of like when we went to the First National.
yep,
It was probably the greatest example of as Michael in the office would say, win-win-win, right?
Nice.
But it was, I
Yes.
wanted to go to the National. I have no money,
yep,
but I can help you out for the week, right?
Yep.
I'll go. You pay my way,
I don't have the money to pay you to come
right?
necessarily,
So then you go.
but I need you to help.
In order for me to get help at the National, I got to pay him for the week and pay his way.
Yeah,
But John doesn't want to get paid. He just wants to go to the National.
yeah,
I got the National for free.
yep. I
You
got
got
your
labor
labor
for
for
free. We both won, and I remember we've talked about this many times.
Yep.
You're like, oh, you'd be like, John, I got the better end of that deal all day long.
Yeah.
And my response to you is what? Nah, I got the better end of the deal. all
And
day
I think
long.
that's an
It's beautiful.
advantageous, yeah. That's what you're shooting for, where it's not imbalanced one way or the other. Where
But it's,
ultimately one
but
side
at the
feels
same time,
resentment.
it's
Yeah.
incredibly imbalanced.
Yeah,
It's ridiculously imbalanced. Like, I just got a free ride. All I have to do is work at the booth that I kind of want to do anyway. Right? And
and
you're
shop
like,
some dime
I don't have
boxes.
to pay you for a week. Like,
yeah.
it's massively imbalanced.
Which, by the way, you didn't do your job because we got all our Aaron Judges stolen. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, dude, we spent all night in the hotel room pulling judges.
And some guy
going
goes, "Are all your Aaron Judges?" And I'm like,
where are the judges?
"Oh, that huge stack that we. Oh,
Hey,
those are all gone.
by the
Thanks.
way,
Someone
we
stole
learned something, right?
Yeah.
If you have 50 Aaron Judge rookies, you don't have to put all 50 on the table, Clint.
Yeah, at once.
Yeah, Clint.
Especially when he was literally the hottest name at the
Right. You
national
put out
league.
2,
Yeah,
and then if somebody goes, hey, do you have any more? You go, why, yes, I do.
yeah.
And then
I realized that was like
or if they buy one, you go, would you like more than one?
Exactly. One quote that jumped out of here. Speaking of he's talking about the low status on page 16, and he says this phrase related to like being on the low end of it. He says, oftentimes even money itself may prove of little use in achieving a higher level.
Right.
He says you won't know how to use it because it's difficult to use money properly, particularly if you're unfamiliar with it.
Right.
Money will make you liable to the dangerous temptations, drugs and alcohol, which are much more rewarding if you've been deprived of pleasure for a long time, which I thought to myself, so often money is seen as the solution to a problem when it's not.
No.
Actually, the money, like Biggie said, more money, more problems. Actually, if you can't steward and handle and budget wisely $1,000,
Yeah.
it's actually worse with 10,000.
Right.
Right? You know, it's not better. Like, in other words, if I can't like make good disciplined decisions with $100,
I'm sure it's not going to do that with 10,000.
you know what I'm saying? But there's this mindset that's like, oh, if I just had more money, it's like, no, it's actually making the best decision you can make now with however much you're.
Well, I'll give you a personal one. So I grew up extremely poor. We had a number, and I might have the years wrong because I was so little, but there was a number of years where homelessness was a possibility. You know, a couple things went wrong.
At what age? Were you at this point? Like,
Probably from birth till 7 or 8, second grade maybe.
and you were actually consciously aware of it, even.
Yeah, my mom would definitely discuss the money problem. One of the famous stories of my family is we went over for Christmas dinner at my grandma's house, and my grandma ran out of milk, and I was little, like a toddler.
Oh wow!
And I said,
You have this memory, even. That's
no, I don't have the memory. It's a family story.
Oh, someone told you.
I don't
Okay,
remember
okay,
it.
you don't remember. It.
The family story, but like I go, run out of milk, and I asked my grandma for milk, and my grandma said, we're out of milk, and I said, oh, grandma, no money? And then that embarrassed my grandmother because they were particularly not helping my mother.
Yeah.
And they knew how, I think it was illustrative of how much she was suffering, but it showed my mentality of like, oh, we don't have any money. Like I don't know how old I was, maybe 3 or 4.
Wow, and you actually connected something not being
Absolutely.
there. As, yeah.
Absolutely.
In other words, it was always because there was no money, not because it was a decision.
Now, to further that on, because we always had that mentality, and that was driven home to me, is that I have a very weird relationship with money. I mean, you've talked about it a few times where you're like, hey, John, you don't like to make money? Why are you giving people too good of a deal? Now, sometimes that probably is it. I'm like, that's expensive.
Well,
And-
you need to think about, like, and I learned this the hard way. So I took over a tree lot from a guy we used to sell to who, this was weird. I got the revelation or the understanding of this not from firsthand, but from observing him, where he had a hard time pricing his he made these custom wreaths. He had a hard time pricing them for what they were worth because I think in his mind he thought, I'm not worth anything. Nothing I could make. No one would want to pay for this. And I literally kept telling him, can I price your stuff? I'll literally make you $10 more.
Right.
Because this stuff is amazing. But for him, he had been in this mindset, which speaks to like our upbringing, what we believe about ourselves. It actually has an impact. And you start realizing like, no, wait, I do bring value.
Right.
And I tried to tell him, and literally it got to the point where when he was gone, I would just reprice him. And I just made him more money.
Right.
Even though for him, he had like this sense of like guilt of like, wow.
No, yeah, there's
You know,
definitely guilt, especially when you know how much you're making on something, even though it's a marginal thing. But you kind of cross on two things. One, that's a bad relationship with money and how you look at money.
How you look
in
at
terms
money.
of amounts, like, to
Yes.
me, a lot of money is $100 still.
100 money.
Even though
$100
I
is a lot,
spent
man.
$6,000 on restocks, which my brain's blowing up.
Yeah.
But the other one, too, is, you grow up being effectively told that you're not worth a whole lot.
Sure.
And then you think, oh, okay, well, that's just kind of how that is.
So you've had to actively overcome those thoughts
Oh, absolutely.
in your day-to-day, which I think is such a great reminder that like most people don't get where they are like without that obstacle. It's like working out. Like you build muscle through the tearing of the muscle, and
Right.
like so like the idea that like something gets built without struggle
It
is
was,
like
but it's
you know,
damage without being trauma.
right. And I
You're
think,
not ripping out a ligament that takes 6 months to recover.
Yep.
You're tearing the muscle just slightly so that it can grow.
and
more.
in that struggle, strength is built,
Right.
right? I mean, it's like this cool picture of.
But that's the
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
That's the problem because
Yeah.
he talks about trauma in
Yes.
the book, and
Yeah.
it's like that's a very good example. Is
Yeah.
if I'm doing barbell curl. And the way muscle is growing, in case people don't know, it's like little small tears in the muscle allows a larger muscle basically to poke through. I guess that's the simplest way of saying it. But if I'm doing a barbell curl and I rip my tendon out, and that's a trauma. You're not getting any stronger. Guess what? Now I'm laid up for 6 months and I've lost half of my muscle mass because I got to wait 9 months to get this back. So you want hardship without trauma. That's kind of the goal.
And the reality is, like, hardship finds all of us. Like, there's no human experience that hasn't dealt with pain, suffering of different measures. And it's not even an issue of, like, comparing. It's an issue of, like, just recognizing how the way I think has been formed by my experience. And then, like, he talks a lot about this, like, the nurture side, like, looking for ways to bolster or strengthen areas I might be lacking in. I think that, like, it takes humility and self-awareness, but when you do it, like, there's a great reward. Like, you get to personally set a goal and overcome, which then it's like cyclical. It builds momentum of you overcoming, more confidence that you can do it again. And then it's like, it breeds.
That was that high volume, low dollar thing. Exactly. I needed to do that and keep repeating it to feel comfortable.
And you don't need to be, not everyone needs to be the guy buying high. I remember having a dealer at the Chicago show 2 years ago come up to me, and he literally, we had this long conversation, good chat or whatever, and he literally looks at me, he's like, you need more high-end cards, he told me. And I said, actually, I don't. Like, my place at where the business is right now is like, that would be unhelpful. I'm like, I'm happy to just grind this thing.
But
out,
I would also argue that you've moved your store to the point now where you can move a lot of high end.
Yeah, now we can.
You've built that clientele to do that.
But I wasn't.
But if you would have done that right away, that would have been probably a misallocation of resources.
Irresponsible. I didn't want to go into debt to do that. I thought we can build it, and we were fortunate enough that the card hobby boomed in this, because otherwise I think it would have taken a few more years to be. It expedited the process a little bit, but like. Still, like, so much, and I love Gary Vee on this one. He talks so much about how you don't want to live your life worried about what other people think or trying to, like, please other people. Like, what do you like to do? Like, when it comes to collecting, people are like, well, what should I be buying? Half the time I'm just like, what do you enjoy?
No, dude.
You live out of your enjoyment, not out of the...
I told this story, I think, on a podcast, but just in case I didn't, or in case someone's listening now that didn't hear it. I remember being part of I'm on a Facebook group for resellers, mainly vintage and apparel, but just kind of general. And this guy's like just ripping on everybody, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you guys are going to thrift shop trying to make $20 on a T-shirt. You guys are losers. He goes, I buy Rolex watches. I buy 25 watches a year. It's high margin. I don't put a lot of work into it, and I make X, whatever it was, right? And I responded to it, and I said, if I had to sell Rolex watches, I'd shoot myself in the head. Like, I don't care about watches.
Right.
Like, it does nothing for me. It would be like selling envelopes or manure. Or, like, I don't care about watches.
Like Kirby vacuums. I always tell people, like, I could sell Cutco knives.
If I find a champion jersey for $2 and it's worth $30, I'm ecstatic.
Right. It's not the dollar amount.
I love the product.
Totally.
Right? And so...
What brings you joy?
But again, what do I care what this random dude thinks? And by the way, here's the other thing. If you're doing that well, congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm happy for you.
And then
right?
But the other fact is...
weird motivation.
But let me ask you this. Is he really doing that well if he needs to go into a group and then even
He might be,
thought?
But I don't understand the motivation as to what he's trying to accomplish by doing that.
I think he's
Does
trying
he want
to,
everybody in the Rolex market? That's not good for him.
Or he's trying to get some accolades for. He's trying to get some affirmation that maybe.
I think it might be just a dominance issue. It's like I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And then that makes them feel better. I'm not really sure his motivation.
Let me ask you this: don't you see this even in cards once in a while, where like some of the draw to cards is people being able to show off like how cool their cards are, which. To be honest, that can be pretty.
But you know what though?
Like,
what happens when somebody does that at a card show? Everybody's really happy that guy has the card. It's very rare do you see a guy mad that somebody owns a really cool card. They're like, "Oh, thanks for showing it to me. That's a beautiful card. Cool. I had it in my hand."
And so
I know that's really cool. Everybody's happy for it. Mostly. I'm sure there's some bitter.
Oh, I regularly get so excited when I see somebody with some cool. I'm like, this is amazing, you know.
Yeah, you got to look at it and hold it and admire. I mean, people go to museums all the time to look at art like that. One of the other ones I saw that I read that I thought was interesting is when you're on that lower end of the spectrum, is that having high, and you need help,
Yep.
and you can't get it because if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, it's unlikely that you have high quality friends.
Sure.
And so your
That makes
friends
sense.
can't even help you because your friends are of low quality as well.
Well, they can't even help themselves.
and
Or-
you
yeah.
you
yeah.
reference that as you want to be around more successful people.
Yes.
And what I've learned is just having the store
Mm-hmm.
and being seen as, not that it's really justified, but being seen as a leader in the hobby in the Twin Cities just because I spent money
Yeah.
to open a store, which is really kind of illogical.
Yeah, but you've gained experience that actually makes you.
True. Yeah, I mean, it's,
through it.
it's
I mean, which came
it's
first?
split.
I mean, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but I'm starting to meet higher quality people in the hobby because of that. Now, the
Right.
people that are around
Absolutely.
me
Yeah.
are significantly higher quality that I'm learning from.
Well,
But
and part
because
of
I'm
it is-
learning from them, I'm becoming more
And
high
part of it
quality.
is you've actually set yourself to learn, and even reading this
No.
book, like that's one of the things I think everyone listening, like, be a learner and like be a reader. I used to never read, like even through college for years, like I recognized afterwards how much I missed out on, and I became a voracious reader for a
Right.
season of my life, and actually I saw the fruit of that in so many ways, like because I mean, as much as I'd love to have conversations with Jordan Peterson, like
Yeah.
I may never meet the guy, and
Right,
he
right,
has a lot to offer me, and that's part of the reason we're doing the podcast is we think in some small way we might have something to offer someone, so we're
Yeah.
going to do that. And so like even if you're listening, you might be like, well, I don't know if I have anything. You do have something worth offering, and
absolutely.
as you start doing it and giving it away, like it actually becomes a
Right.
benefit for you. You know what I mean? And so like don't just consume only, like, you know. And I think that's one of the cool things about
Well, I talk
business.
about all the time is I share all the information I have in the sports guy hobby as I'm trying to share everything. I don't go, oh, I really think that prospect's
Right.
good, and then I'm not going to tell anybody.
Yeah, it's gonna be my little secret.
Evan always like, shh, don't say anything. Like, you know, but here's the thing.
Evan, most of these people wouldn't even go out and buy baseball anyway.
Right. But at the same time, when you do that, they start
Yeah.
sharing with you.
That's true.
And now
Yep.
we got two heads
Yes.
working together, and that's always better. So stop trying to be such a greedy pig, Evan. They're just saying.
Evan,
you know,
stop
like,
trying to get
share some
every
information.
Boba card on the planet.
So I don't want to bury the lead of this
Yeah.
chapter. So the chapter
Yeah.
talks a lot about negative feedback loops,
Yep.
where something bad happens, and because that happens, more bad things happen. You start making
Right.
poor and poor decisions, but you get around that by starting to create a positive feedback loop. I go
Yep.
back to,
Yep.
I had a series of losses. I said, I need a win.
Yes.
And even if the win was $2 profit, that was a win.
Good.
And that $500, well, I was making $2 to $5 per item. Took a long time,
Yeah.
but now I have my shop.
That's so awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what they're talking about is standing up straight, with your shoulders back.
Yep.
And so it puts you in it's seen as a vulnerable position because by being very straight and tall, you put yourself vulnerable to attack.
Yep.
But then it provides that image to others that you're not to be trifled with, and then it does something in your brain that tells you you have more value than you thought just because of the physical action of doing it.
Yep.
Which I found that very interesting because Gary Vee talks about that faking it till you're making it is stupid, which I agree with. Like, but this is more like recognizing that you have value and
Yep.
then doing an action that symbolizes that you agree that you have value.
I've
So I don't
heard-
think it's
yeah.
I don't think it's a fake.
No, and I think this is another way I've heard it put is you actually think your way into a new way of acting.
Right.
Like, so it's not that you're faking it. You're saying this is where I want to go. And as I start acting that way, I carry myself. Do you know what I mean? It
Right.
kind of carries me that way. Versus like if I put my head down, I just complain all the time.
Right.
And then I wonder why I'm
But this is
unsuccessful.
very different than walking around with a bunch of jewelry that you bought on a credit card, pretending like you're a baller.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's
that's just like
That's
so
well, and you know why? Part of it is it's to Gary Vee's point. That's too focused
Too
on like,
much.
well, and it's too much about what other people think of you versus like I'm actually doing this for
Right,
me,
right.
and I'm actually trying to.
you're not standing up straight, and it might have
Yeah.
impact on other people,
Sure.
but you're standing up straight for yourself.
Yes, for what
You're
it's
not
going to
wearing all
benefit
the-
you.
You're not
yes.
dripping in jewelry for you.
Because think about it, you could drip in jewelry with your head down,
Yeah.
and it's not producing what just having your head up without
Right.
the jewelry. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
So I find that
Yeah.
I find that interesting. I think actually the title of the first chapter is actually not as important as all the other stuff we talked about in the chapter, which is
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
yeah,
But that's what I got for that. And
great podcast.
all right,
man.
cool. I think that was fun. Thanks everybody for listening. Please, really like this podcast. Give it a real shot and listen to a good amount of it.
And keep sending us questions. We love
Love the
covering
questions.
those. We'll always prioritize that. And thanks for all the listeners, man.
Thanks for listening.